kid, we champions. Ain't no stopping, ain't no end. We cutting off you haters snip. That was to the hand. I told him leave me alone. Don't make my guy come from his phone. Even told him knick-knack, paddywhack, and gave them dogs a bone. I told him I go hard. I told him just to let it go. I told him that I tell him when I win how I told him so.
Hello, everyone. Just kind of getting some last minute things. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Let me see here. Can you guys hear me okay? Like if it ever goes mute or you can't hear, can somebody just let me know in the chat, please? So I wish I can kind of hear the audio, but So today I was kind of late because it's like God always be revealing stuff. And every time that, we kind of going through this thing, like when God is helping us and teaching us, a lot of times he's doing that for us too. So everybody's kind of, in this process together, as long as we on this earth, we got a lot of battles to face, but he's been, the revelation is just been so awesome that, I'm always trying to find that last little bit of proof to kind of, bring to everybody else, because I think the more that we know about what's happening, the truth, the actual truth, the better we can have a fight against it. Because you can't fight the enemy you don't know, or the enemy that has been deceptive, or the enemy that wears a mask. You can't fight what you don't know. So going through this is so many parallels to the occult, to shapeshifters, to Nephilim. Like it's just so many different things, and each one I'm gonna kind of break down because I think it's all like that. Those have to be like different separate teachings, but this one is really gonna focus on everybody that's been through a narcissistic situation. Like I've always been saying, you were dealing with someone who was really binded to the kingdom of darkness. And because of that, they were acting in the role of a priest or a priestess. And so and sometimes we were, even as, codependents, you can also be opened up to certain kingdoms or programmed to the moon or different things and won't even know because we don't know what our ancestors did. But with the narcissist specifically, that kind of pain, and God was really showing me this, it was something that I was only able to describe as agony. So I was like crying out like, this is agony. And I was like doing these soul cries. And, that's part of like the POV version of it. And, it was such a brokenness that I haven't really quite understood or was kind of familiar with, but put it in the past. So he was showing me how with a betrayal trauma that all of us have been through this card is betrayal trauma. So this card is what they label it as. That is such a very nice word for actually what's going on when someone is discarded by someone that they love. And it has to be such a bond that you have a actual spiritual connection, not just your soul, but your body, soul, and spirit has been connected to this person and enmeshed with them. A lot of times you guys become one, whether married or not married. There's still a covenant that has happened to where you had let a guard down of your heart, which heart is translated a lot of different ways, but your heart is not like the heart that beats. That's our physical, but your heart is like your mind. Okay, here you got different parts, which they would call chakras. Not going to New Age, they did something else with that. Biblically, I'm going to show you how in Isaiah it break down these areas, crown of our head to the soles of our feet, of these heart or inner parts, spirit man, that God put together, that it opens us up to a different realm. And so that is kind of when we open up those parts of us, and it's like your mind, your will, your conscience. It's like when you really give somebody your all and they destroy it or betray you, That only happens a couple times. Usually parents, usually a spouse, usually a child. They have to really mean something to you to get into all of those different areas of your soul. And when that kind of discord happens, that creates a splitting and a shattering in your spirit. So your soul can have wounds, and people talk about soul wounds all the time. It's even a lot of teachers, they like your soul wounds. And I'm even talking about how some of them soul parts can be in some prisons. But your spirit, it said a broken heart or something. I'm going to bring that scripture up. One can bear, but who can bear a broken spirit? Okay, when your spirit is broke, it dries the bones. And it says it in the Bible, the broken spirit dries the bones. So when somebody's spirit is broken, and sometimes, like I said, parents, children, spouses, they got to be very close. It opens the door for all of these diseases that we call disease, but actually disease is broken spirit. So autoimmune disease, cancer, HIV, all of these things. Let me see. They had the new one come, the Bell's palsy, like all of these autoimmune things. Multiple sclerosis. Like there are several chronic diseases or autoimmune that they can't really explain, but a lot of things come from an immune system deficiency. And when your immune system, when you have a trauma and it's a broken spirit and it rots the bones, your bone marrow and everything produces your immune system, your macrophages, like all of those lymphocytes and everything else, it produces these white blood cells. So that means you have a less production of those white blood cells, those red blood cells, everything that make your system function. See how that works? So they know this. The medical field know this. It's them, even with this whole, and I'm gonna get into lupus is also one of them. Yep, lupus is one of them as well. Even when I get into the teaching on that, I'm gonna do a whole medical teaching probably next week, just on a medical piece of it. But when I really look into it, there's a certain the thing that they put out there, the stuff that kind of helped with that disease that came out is some interleukin things. So it let me know that fear is a main factor. Because when you have a broken spirit, when we were with these people, this witchcraft and occult, everything in their world, the demonic realm, operates with fear. So when somebody is tethered to a kingdom of darkness or a kingdom of death and have all of these generational iniquity, they are attached to fear. Fear is always, witchcraft is used in fear. You know, everything that the enemy does, he does with fear. When he trained his people, it's out of fear. When they were doing their sacrifices, it was out of fear. Like everything was out of fear of death. So fear, death, all of those kingdoms, that's what Satan's kingdom is about. That's what they thrive on. That's why they like the fear factor. That's why they got these horror movies out. That's why they did all of this conditioning. So the goal with fear is to get to the point where it can break the spirit, because you can have too much overload and you shatter. Your human spirit can shatter. That's what the narcissist does when you're in a situation with one of them, or a marriage, because they're always having that fear, like, I'm going to get a divorce, I'm just going to leave, we just don't need to be together. And when you talking about destroying somebody's family, that is a crushing blow, you know. And these are systems that we have to understand, you know, strategically how the enemy operate. He try to scare you through the family system, business system, you know, education system. Like there are different ways that he has to try to make sure that you're living in a state of fear, anxiety, stress. Because those three can break down your entire body and make you sick, and then it can make you be in a covenant with the spirit of death. So that's the goal of the enemy, just in a summary. And we can get more on the immune system stuff, effects of it. But just know that when we were with these things that's in these people, they break your spirit. And that's a different kind of pain. That's an agony. And when it's an agony pain, that goes beyond the soul. And that's why a lot of people are like, it's 5 years later. Why am I still thinking about this person? It's 10 years later. Why I'm still thinking about this person? The same reason why when you were younger and there was this horrible thing, the first time your mom betrayed you, or the first time your dad left, or the first time your sibling did something violating, or the first time something happened, the same reason why you can remember that like it was yesterday is the same reason why you can always remember this kind of injury if that spirit man don't get healed. Because once your spirit gets shattered like dust and it's up there in the astral doing stuff, a fallen angel or a Nephilim or a demonic spirit is going to capture that, because that's life force to them. That's like gold dust to them. They're going to capture that and they're going to take a hold of it and they're going to try to own it. And when they own it, they bring the torment. So all of this work in tandem. That's the enemy is so strategic. He has to send them to get a piece of you. Their kingdom don't have life. They operate on our energy, our soul, and everything, our emotions, and these different energy portals that's their life force. But God, we got life. So that's why they try to, suck the life out of us, literally, because they're tethered to it. And it's like they're choosing, just like we chose. We all had the similar situations. Like a lot of people had a lot of hard times, brokenness, different type of abuse situations. But there's something that God puts in certain people, and that he puts a spark in himself. And then we can choose to listen to that spark, or we can choose to become the bully. So the narcissists repeatedly choose to be the bully, even though they might have similar pain. We can't stop that. Nobody can stop that. That's human. Only God can reach them. And if you planted a seed, cool, keep that moving, because they are still in covenant or under complete dominance of whatever evil force has took over their body. It can be a fallen, it can be something. They probably something different altogether. Who knows? But I want to kind of go over, just a little bit on how we're like made up. So we have some parts in us. And I'm going to try to get to some of the questions, but hey, Smiley, hey, Mojo, I'm trying to get to some of the names too. Hey, Alicia, hey, Beth, hey, Raquel, hey, Taryn, how are you guys doing? So if you guys have questions, please put them in a chat. Hey, Prideless Chick, hey, everyone. So if you have questions, I'm gonna try to like answer the questions too as we go along, because this is a lot. I was like, all right, God, you're gonna have to help me, because this is a lot for me to digest. And I do medical. I'm like, this is a lot. But let me see if I can somehow. And he been kind of showing me different things throughout these 3 years. Like, I'm gonna show this board that he put up, but he just kind of, sometimes you be in so much pain, like even though you be doing things and writing stuff, you know, if you're in a dissociated pain state, you don't even remember writing it. I'm like, God, you showed me this. But yeah, he definitely been getting everything together. Like, yes, we got this. This is why I did this. This is why you was doing that. So I'm gonna show you how we wanted to line up with the Bible, because I could say a lot of things on different articles that people wrote, but a lot of times people wrote teachings based on occult philosophers. And so I don't want to give information, recycled information. I want to get information that brings life, because we can talk all day. We can say they cruddy. We can say this, but a lot of times the enemy can train us to start speaking curses, and we don't want to do that. We don't want to make things hard for ourselves. We want to know what's going on, the why, and then we do want to understand what we really encountering with them, because it's not good. You know, some of them know what they're doing. Like, some of them are really trained in the arts of darkness, and they strategically do this, you know, for sport. And so we gotta understand that there is some wickedness. Even though we can see the humanity in people, there are some people with some dark hearts, and they not trying to be free right now. But the broken spirit, it talk about how we were formed of the dust, and this can be translated particle. A lot of things is particle, the ground, and then he did a breathing into us. So everybody that's born, and I'm gonna show you that spark of life at conception, God has a purpose spoken over their life. Their purpose is spoken. You're gonna see the light come into the fertilized seed and the egg. So everybody has that. And it was a great plan and purpose. So based on that, you had this spark of life in the heavens, because everything done here below is done above. In the heavens, they can see that. Your star shines. So what the enemy do, he be like, oh, that's a really bright star there. He started assigning all of these setups to start breaking you down. Family members that's into witchcraft, that's in the family, people doing all these different things to break your spirit. Because if he can break your spirit and shatter you and get you to reinvent yourself at childhood, he gets you to abandon the little one that he's there with, trying to still mend those wounds. He gets you to abandon yourself. That's what the narcissist did. Okay, most of these narcissists were broken in childhood, are broken at some point, and instead of everybody can reinvent themselves, they kept doing it, and they never go back to that person. Even when you can explain the same information I'm explaining to you all, a narcissist, that when you try to explain it to them, they be like, oh, I'm fine. That thing rise up. So it's so hard to, I don't know what it would take for them, but God knows. I might just be a seed in some of my clinics that get planted in these narcissists' head. And, they might look at that later on when they're going through some really extreme times. I don't know, but it's so, what I see in practice, it's just a complete stonewall. They don't even want to know if something like that going on. They're not even really listening. They probably there because court order, or they trying to get back at an ex and make it seem like the ex and did something to them. So they need this paperwork because they trying to get them messed up in court. They do that. So Smiley asks, like, when a couple divorce from one another, how can the hurting one actually become free and disconnected from the that's a good question. Now that's when I described that agony, it was a shattering. Like it was such a brokenness that I was screaming, like I was crying out to God, but I really was like, I need my spirit or anybody to cry out because I'm paralyzed with this pain. It was not just a pain of, okay, I really was just like into this person. It was like, God, I felt like this time I was doing everything that you said for me to do according to your Bible. And then I couldn't even understand how this type of thing could have happened if I'm in your will. Because I felt like I was doing everything right. Like he was, a pastor, even though he had his issues, he was evil. But, like, I'm like, God, but we prayed, we did this, we was doing deliverance, all of that. And because I had that kind of an injury or pain with the agony, even though God was telling me, God, he broke it down. He was like, no, I pulled you out of idolatry. You got generational iniquity. That was not me. That's religiosity. I'm not in that. Don't pay attention to that. He knew what was in that man's heart. And I still couldn't I was like, all right, God, I'm not going to say nothing because I read Job. But God, it hurts. And I don't know what else to do with this pain, but it hurts. And I don't understand. I still don't understand why. I don't understand why they get to have this wonderful life and all of this and that. And he just kept being gentle. I'm removing generational iniquity. That wasn't you. Just trust me. Like all of this stuff. And so when I'm talking about removing that hurt, it was just times I had to just let my tears kind of be my prayers. And I felt him collecting them. It's like I was crying out. It was a very bipolar deliverance experience, but you have to go through the deliverance part. And the deliverance, you will turn on some demons. You will command some things to come out of you in Jesus' name. And they will have to, because he told us to do that according to Mark. But he's the deliverance. His name, Yeshua, if you translate it, is Strong's H344. So it's 1, 3, and 4, 3 4s. Strong's H344. The name Yeshua, now I'm going to write it in the chat here. The name Yeshua actually means deliverance. Oh, whoops. Let's see. H314. There you go. So if y'all look that up, you will see it translated as Yeshua because they didn't have an H. But his name, and then that was actually a moment for me because I felt like I never knew that growing, all through my years of church, deliverance and everything. I never knew that. And then I start really studying him. and not the demons, not the fallen angels, not everything I was trained to do, not everything in the spirit realm, all of this stuff. I just start studying him, because for me, it's like, I think we're so hurt by the crushing of our plans more than just this person that we knew was doing this wicked things to us. It's the plans and the fantasy and the life that we had formed for ourselves in our minds. Like my life, and he had to reveal it. Like I said, God, I'm gonna have the God-fearing husband. Like that was the way that I felt was making it. God-fearing husband. I'm gonna be a godly wife. I'm gonna have a career. I'm gonna have children. I'm not gonna be like my broken family. And that's when we make vows and then we try to achieve those ourselves. The enemy always can ensnare us in traps, because our plans are not God's plans. Our thoughts are not his thoughts. His thoughts are way higher. He got way better for us. But when we're trying to, kind of make some things happen based on our soul feelings, like we like, okay, we can vibe. You like God, I love God, you want deliverance. We both said we're not going to fornicate. Okay, we got this. Even though it's 2 months, 2 months now, we married. Didn't catch it, because my desires was still half in the world and half with him. So in getting out of this pain, I had to turn on the false me. I had to turn on a false belief system. And a false belief system is called an unloving spirit. And I'm just go over this. The spirit of man, and that factors in like the personality, is the lamp of the Lord, searching all his inner parts. So our human spirit, according to Proverbs, like we're made in the image of God. So we have a body, soul, spirit. Our spirit man is what God has been dealing with. Like he deal with us in spirit and truth. So when he gives us this spirit to kind of interact with, it's constantly doing this evaluation. But if it's fractured in childhood and everything else, we got a piece of him in us, but we don't have our whole spirit. We don't have our whole inner part. Some of them been hijacked by the enemy. And that's a teaching, like that's what some of this is going to get into, because we want to be whole. Our goal is to be whole. And in order to be healed from this, we got to be whole. And the kind of I'm like going into this in like this Ecclesiastes, but when we are, so the way that looks, when you have a false construct, you have a false persona. Okay, you have a new you, or somebody that you have we have a new person. Like we have a professional us, we act like this at work. They train us to do this through culture. And they induce a double mind. And then we have the us at home. Then we have the us that, okay, we really didn't like what you were saying, but we're going to keep our peace, even though we don't like it. So now we're kind of turning on ourselves there, because we walking on eggshells. That is a false self that has to be looked in a mirror, and it's called an unloving spirit. And I'm going to have these characteristics that I'm going to bring up. And if you see any of them characteristics on the list, that's the only way you're going to recognize that this thing has been controlling a large part of your life. Because I was like, people was telling me things, you couldn't really tell me too much, because I'm like, I've been doing deliverance. Like, no, that's not it. That's not me. I was quick with that. I had a very quick discrediting spirit, because I always had to be on defense. So I was like, nah, it sound all right. You might be a little right. God himself had to show me. And a lot of times when we have agony pain, that's when Yeshua step in, and he show us ourself, our broken self, and then he show us how he's about to fix us. He the one who binds up our wounds. When that word bind in translation, it means he goes and he get all of our human parts. So he go into the spirit realm and he retrieves all of our soul parts and our spirit parts. So we was like broken in childhood because trauma will break you. If we was broken, he goes to that little us, he mends that, and then he merges that with the adult us. And it take all of that. It take looking in the mirror and turning on that. Like, you are the unloving spirit. You set up all of my relationships. You knew they would fail. You knew I was going to be rejected by that person. This is not me. This was not God. This was you. And I'm tired of you, and I'm turning on you in Jesus' name. And I command you to be out of my body. This is not your body. You will not be able to destroy my life anymore. And you got to do that in a mirror. That's like when Michael Jackson was talking about he talking to the man in the mirror. We got to have that talk with ourselves in the mirror. So Haria was really onto something with that, because that's the biggest issue, is the other us, the one we used to seeing in the mirror. And that the one in the mirror, we had a image, we had a look, we had a certain thing we was doing, we had it all together. A lot of us were professionals, we had some success, we had some things. We got to address that, because God was like, hey, I'm still looking at the little girl that's sitting there crying, in this timeline, that's hurt and wounded, and I really want to heal her, but you left us. We was working this out. You left, you ran away, you couldn't take it. So I need you to come back, face this, because there's no guilt and shame with me. I got wounds for that. I'm going to heal that. And then I want to nurture you. I want you to just rest. You can take it easy for a little bit. So this 3-cord strand, a lot of times we get it, they use this a lot with marriage, like a 3-cord strand, not easily broken. We got you, me, and God. And I'm going to tell you how this he was giving me a revelation. When you're really looking at how this works, things take a 3-cord strand. Everything that God does, when you look at the Hebrew alphabet, I think the 3 is like the Gamel, and that's supposed to be righteousness. But everything is like 3. We got spirit, soul, body. Okay, you got Father, Son, Holy Spirit. They're 1 and 3. So they're 3 and 1. So it's not like 3 separate, like a triangle. That's the false trinity. But it's all moving in motion. It's all like if you think of light and sound and energy. So it's all moving fluidly, but it's different functions. So this 3-cord strand, the way that the narcissist is kind of tethered to darkness, their 3-cord strand is bloodshed. You got to have some of that. And that can happen in ways of, anything they might do. They can slice and dice and unalive people with their tongue. Or they can have some type of things that they do traumatically, and there's some bloodshed. But that has to happen a little bit. The occult, you got to have some divination, occult, witchcraft type activity or something going on. And then, and these are iniquity strands. These are very thick, hard to break iniquity strands. And so you have, and you have to have like the sex magic. So they're a lot of times that's the reason why have this large like sexual appetite, because this is what the kingdom of darkness has to have to really be able to take over a person. Because you can't just take over a person and possess them. It takes a lot of covenants and contracts and getting these iniquity strands in place, unless their parents were occultists and groomed them. That's a different teaching. Most of us been with people that's just repeatedly doing these iniquity strands, and they're tethered. Like these ties, these cords here, these cords, that is not easily broken. They are tethered to these dark entities, to like fallen angels. That's a different ball game than the demons that are disembodied spirits, like anger, depression, and stuff that you cast out. These are demons that they have entered and interwoven themselves into their DNA, and they have taken over their body in many areas. And it's when you talk to them, you're going to be talking to the demon. You're not going to be talking to the core of them. They're taken over. Only God can break them enough. They got to go through an agony, but they don't get their feelings involved. You got to have love to feel agony. If you don't have love, how you going to feel the agony? That's the thing. It's some way they got to feel love, allow themselves to feel love, and love something enough. They don't even love their children like that. There's no love like that. They love what they want. They love what they can get. They got to love something else. They got to have love more than their needs or what they want for survival. They're caught up in mammon. But this is that cord. So we have to have our cord. So we got 2-strand DNA, right? We get a cord from a mom. We get a cord from a dad. These are our program trees. And they got their cords. So if we deal with the narcissist, they got their cords. They got their generational cords too. And those things have to be in a tree. And those things were probably in our tree. But instead of a fallen angel being attached to it, when you make up your mind and you like, all right, God, I want to be born again. Our 3rd cord comes from Jesus. We get a 3rd-strand DNA from Jesus. We get his DNA. And when we get Yeshua DNA, that's a game changer. Okay, that starts to it supersedes some of these other trees in our life. And he do talk about the trees in Isaiah, and I may get to that, but he talk about when he came to do, like when he said he was anointed to go and preach the gospel, proclaim liberty. You know, one of those words is that tree. He came to be that tree of life for us. He came to be that strand, that third strand DNA. That's why the medical field is so focused on this DNA. That's what CRISPR and all of that is for. It is to put the tree of death back into the body where Jesus had did the reset and made it life. And it's just kind of a breakdown, like our spirit. Everybody feel like your spirit is somewhere, you know, it's hard. We never really learned where it was at, but we got a little area of us when they be talking about that pineal gland and everything. You know, we do have a part that is called like a tent. They call it the delta, but there's a part of us that lights up, and that's where our conscience is supposed to be, like our moral compass where God inscribes right and wrong. So when, like with the narcissist, when they abandon this, like when this is broken, they abandon it altogether. They don't have nothing to do with their spirit self or whatever. It's just completely taken over by darkness. Only God can get it, because he still do. If they were born human, he still got a little piece of particle that he can work with. It's that iota. That's that Greek letter where he said the kingdom of God has come unto you. Jesus always got a little piece that he can go and reach. It's nothing too strong for him. So when that debate come, like, can a narcissist be saved and all of that, any human that have a seed and an egg can be saved. Even no matter what they did about this transhuman, whatever else, they can be saved. It's just when you have a 3-cord strand, it's not easily broken, and humans cannot do it. You know, he said, with man, this is impossible. With God, all things are possible. Only God can do it. So, Cynthia, to answer your question, yeah, if they are human, now we dealing with some things. I'm trying to get to that picture. You got some skins. You got some people that's just spirit in a body. They don't have a living soul. No, they cannot. We could have interacted with one of them. We won't know. But the people that, the humans that had a seed and an egg from the parents, they can be saved. Like Jesus can save anybody. Yeshua can save anybody. He said that in Colossians. He was like, it don't matter if they Scavian, barbaric, or however. He got his blood will cover. Them actually getting saved, that's a whole different story. Very small percent, because they have this here. This mind is reprobate. When God turns somebody over to a reprobate mind, only God has that authority to turn them back over. If we are in the way, he's not going to do that, because they are idle. They are not to save them when we are with them. They are our destroyer. And God, to spare us, he will intervene and he will separate some stuff. He will allow that person to go and be with the new supply, because if it'll save your life and your bloodline. He told me that, because I wrote it all down back a couple years ago, 2 years ago. And he said, like, it wasn't because of me, it's because he heard the prayers of my children. And because of the calls on their life, he had to remove me from the idolatry. He knew that situation wasn't going to get better. And so he will remove somebody for his will to be done. And I would never have learned about any of this had I not went through that pain, had to go through deliverance, had black goo come out of me, had parasites come out of me, and had researched that. I would never have known about all of this stuff if that didn't happen. So he works everything out for his good. But if we are in a covenant agreement with a Satanist, so Cynthia, to kind of get to your point too, if somebody is Satanist, can they be saved? Any human can be saved. They are an active Satanist. They have a church of Satan. They practice it. This is what they enjoy doing. They summon Satan all the time. Chances of them being saved, probably slim, because they hate Christ. They don't even want to hear it. There's chances of somebody being in the occult. They don't want to hear it. It's like they have the deaf, dumb spirit blocking them. And then instead of even listening or listening truth, they're going to attack you. So it takes God to do something supernaturally to them, for them to come to that. And we never know if he's going to do it or what his timing would be. If we're in the way, that's gonna delay it. Because they not there. The purpose for them being with us was to destroy us. Satan want to fulfill his purpose. He gonna transform himself to an angel of light. So you got a bunch of them Antichrist church spirits going around. They gonna do all of that. They gonna twist the word. They gonna use it against you. By the time you done with them, you gonna feel like, who is God? That's what I was crying in agony. Like, God, if you real, please just show me. And can I even hear you? Am I saved? That's what they do. They make you ziggity boo. All of this stuff, they get you. This get all completely infected with demons. That's what they do. And so, and it causes this split. And so, this is kind of how the foundations work. You know, you got your mom. Okay, we're gonna keep it real. The mother is the nurturer. That's the name. That's their function in the Bible. So, if the mother is split, and you got a happy mom, sad mom, mad mom, happy mom, you never know like which mom you're gonna get. It trains you as a baby to look like, all right, happy baby, sad baby. So you gon' that's the first split, is the mother wound. And then when you split, your spirit is shattered. Like, you got to split. You got a double mind here. Two things going on. One is trained for performance. One has unconditional love. Unconditional love, performance. Unconditional love, performance. So the enemy know he got some building blocks he working with, because he gave you that mom. And he was kind of, working through it. Not to blame your moms. You got to pray for your mothers, because they had their mothers. And then they had their mother. This go on and on. But, they did this stuff. And TV trained us to do some stuff. But when you are healing, this one, you got to turn on. You got to be like, man, that's not me. That's not who Jesus created me to be. You got to find out your identity. Who said you were naked? It goes to that. Who said you were all of these bad things? What did Jesus say? That's the only voice we need to know. Was we fearfully and wonderfully made? Yes. Did he have a purpose? Oh, he speaks that at birth. And I'm going to show you guys that slide, because how that works with the conception. Because two things happen. We get a living soul, and then we also get our spirit, our human spirit. So when we are, let me see if I have that on here. I'm gonna look that up. So when we have, hold on, let me bring that up real quick. When we have our human spirit at birth, you're gonna see like there's this light at conception. And they finally were able to start doing that. But now, the wicked people are always trying to manipulate something. That's what they do. But I'm gonna show you how. So when you have that purpose, sorry, I wanted to have it all on display. Let me see here. I'll bring it up. Okay. Let me switch screens. Sorry. Great. That's why I need to have some like music going. Like I always get copyrights and strikes and everything, threats, like gonna remove your channel. So I try to just not put extra stuff in it. They always trying to censor stuff. But let me play this. So you guys can see this. I'm gonna just turn the volume out because it just make noise. But this is so what we're looking at is a egg. So they were just kind of looking at, and I think this might have been MIT. They was kind of looking at a ovum, and when it gets fertilized, because they were trying to capture this, and they finally had that technology to capture it. So when we see the time that the egg is actually fertilized, that's when you'll see that light. So we just gonna look at it, and then at the moment, see that light? That's the human spirit. That's when the person becomes a human spirit. So each of us had that was born, that was born from an egg and a sperm. So God when he creates our life, he speaks a purpose over it. And what the enemy does, he listen, he got his monitors, and he like, they gonna destroy my kingdom. I gotta get them young. I gotta make sure if they prophetic, I'm about to load them up and they gonna see demons. If they outspoken person, I'm gonna get them abuse and make sure they too scared to talk. If they are, supposed to have this mercy and compassion, I'm gonna make somebody out there that hurts them so bad that they would never want to open up their doors again to anybody. That's how the enemy think. He's very strategic, and his only thing is to offset our purpose. Any of the narcissists that I've been with, all of them silence my voice. All of them, I went into this complete submissive role, and I would give them the things for them to speak, but I would be too afraid to speak because they will always say, oh, you're just too loud. Oh, you talk too much. Oh, you talk too fast. Oh, you can't sing. You can't do this. And, they will always, that they attack my worship. They attack my speech, my voice, my ability to talk. They attack, because they'll be like, is something wrong with you? Like, do you have this or that going on? They will always attack, just the appearance, just different things. And everything that they will attack, that's the very area that God would use. Like even in this area of deliverance and seeing the stuff, they will be like, oh, you just so super, you just like so science fiction, or are you just so you in La La Land, you in this and that. When God would be showing some really huge revelations in the spirit realm, like, no, it looked like this and this is going on because this is what's happening. Oh, there you go. But that's what a narcissist does. They have such an antichrist spirit that the very things that they always said that you were not, those are the things that God spoke over your life to be. So understand that. So if they be like, you ain't gonna have no money, no, he spoke wealth over you. If they say, oh, you a horrible parent, no, you the best parent because God spoke that over you. It's a lot of things the enemy know what God spoke over you. So the narcissist, the person, the shell, the meat suit, they don't, the core of them is suspended somewhere in space. We don't even know. They might be on Saturn or Mars. Who knows? But that vessel, they got that entity in it. That entity know all about you. That entity is the thing that studied you. That's a spirit spouse. That's an antichrist. It's legion up in them. They got a bunch of them. Familiar spirits, everything. They studied your whole tree. They got strategic orders on how to destroy you. And I'm going to show you that clip too on how this is working, just so we can have an idea of the level of evil we're dealing with, because a lot of people on here got calls on their life like no other. I'm telling you, y'all, it'd be some very anointed people. And it's just the enemy. He know that this happened. When we see this light, God spoke it. And once God speaks it, he don't retract. If he say you're going to be a prophetess, whatever, you're going to do this and that, if you're going to have this wealth, if you're going to bring souls to his kingdom, he never retracts. So what the enemy do is he deceives you. He tells you the opposite. He's sending his agents to strip you from it. He robs you of it. And then he try to give your gift to his demonic agents to spread his kingdom. So that's why they mimic us. That's why they do all of this stuff like us, because Satan do the same with Christ. Antichrist. He do everything like everything is just the way that Christ would do it, just in the reverse. So he the originator of backwards walking giraffe, like she be saying. That's funny. That's actually real true too. Yeah, he's the originator. Telsa. Now she be saying, I used to watch her videos like all the time, but I'm telling you, it's just this thing here. Whew, we got to understand what we're dealing with. So we got the concept on how that work as far as the spirit, soul, and body. And then I wanna play a couple of things so we can kind of hear from firsthand perspectives. So this guy that's talking. He's talking about how these kingdoms work. Tasha, she awesome. Let me see. I want to try to get in some of these other things. Like I be having so many different scenes, so many different stuff on here. But I want to talk about real quick, just kind of talk about some of the prisons. Like a lot of times, the enemy, so what he does, he put us in captivity when we're dealing with them. So I'm trying to see which direction. I'm gonna talk about this real quick and then show you something else, because I'm talking to Holy Spirit too, like, you want me to get into that? Because some things can get pretty weighty. But I'm gonna be breaking stuff up. We're gonna keep talking about this soul, spirit, and physical stuff, because everything carries over. And if you're dealing with an illness, hey, now we about to do some healing. We about to really get into some healing, some supernatural, because a lot of times we have to experience the dunamis power of God. And once we experience that dunamis power that nothing can mimic, medicine can't mimic it, people counseling can't mimic it, nothing can mimic his power. The enemy can't even mimic his power. Once we experience it and we have a supernatural encounter, like when I say he healed the tumors off my daughter and he healed me of allergies, he healed me of autoimmune stuff. They was trying to diagnose me with rheumatoid arthritis when I was dealing with the narcissist. My joints was swollen and starting to deform. I was like, what is this? But my grandmother had a history of rheumatoid arthritis, and the enemy, if he got that in a tree, he gonna try to bring those diseases right on down. But God stepped in like, no, I am the cure. And once he starts showing me as far as how this work on a DNA level and how his blood can transfuse our blood and how that manifests from the spirit to the natural, I had to see that. You know, a lot of things we got to witness. We ain't going to be able to witness it with the narcissist. The narcissist is not there. They're there as a blocker. They come with Leviathan. Leviathan has the scales that be on the eyes and stuff. His scales are too thick. So as long as we're in a covenant with them, that all of that stuff it blocks God's voice. It blocks us to be able to reach that spirit realm. We can reach the soul, but it's hard to reach where he's at. He's in the spirit, the third heaven. That's spirit to spirit. Your spirit can go there. And in an agony, that's a mercy cry. That agony mercy cry is going to reach that spirit. That's the time. That's why sometimes it takes that agony. He be like, okay, I've seen the performance, but hey, your heart, I heard your heart. Your spirit man is your heart. That's part of it. Got a lot of different heart parts. I wanted to address this. So Cynthia, when I say a broken spirit dries the bones, a broken spirit really does dries the bones. That is, that's one of the main attacks that these type of pains, like this cortisol, interleukins, like the stuff that this releases with an agonizing type of pain, it blocks certain things from happening that will block your all of that bone marrow and all of that kind of production, and it will offset your immune system. We don't get sick because of different pathogens in the air. God, he created all of this. We got an immune system like no other that will tear some pathogens up. We get sick when fear and what they call disease, okay, they call it disease, when fear and our thoughts and our faith and our words that we speak and we put it on fear, when that starts to put in a curse or death, it attaches death, it comes into agreement with it over our life. So when we say things like, oh my gosh, he broke my heart, we're speaking it, and he probably did. And we got to ask God, like, God, we know, but he did, they did, and they did break our spirit. And we be like, all right, he broke my heart. God, I need you to heal my heart. We can't deny it. I'm not saying going around being tight-lipped. That don't work. I tried that. You got to be honest. You come in God just like that, and that's when you get healing. God, I'm this hurt. I don't know. I don't really feel like talking to you right now, but I know that's not the real me talking, but I'm just I don't know what to feel. I'm like mad, sad. I don't know. He'll help you. He'll be like, I get it. He showed his wounds, been there. I'm here for you. I'm gonna help you out. And that's how we got to be with God. We got to talk to him more than we talk to people. But when he's saying it rots the bones, it dries the bones and stuff, he got some scriptures and things he want to show you, because the healing, his word is like medicine. He say it. Pleasant words, his word is very pleasant. It's like a honeycomb, strength for the body, Healing to the body, strength for the bone. So if you got pleasant words, compliments, that's why we were like, oh, happy and feeling good and dopamine release, because the word of God commands that to happen. When we were getting love bombed, because it was pleasant words, they were using flattery, and that brings a certain kind of chemical rush. And so when we see his word, and his word is true, and it's actually good things about us, it starts to bring healing to our body. Okay, because we need that, and it strengthens our bones. So if our bones were rotting, it gives strength. So we need to have that strength happening, because our macrophages, red blood cells, everything, when they talk about bone marrow transplant for cancer. So now we know what cancer is, because it is written in the Bible, bitterness rots the bone. So when people have injury, betrayal, trauma, this red line here. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I'm thinking y'all, my bad. Let me put the screen on. I'm up here thinking the screen is on here. I'm sorry. Let me share this screen real quick. Okay, this is what God had me draw when I was kind of going through some things, trying to figure it out. I had to get a whiteboard and everything. Like, God, I need to try to figure this out. This is not making sense. But this trauma here is what that betrayal trauma is what kind of starts setting up a fortress of unforgiveness and bitterness. So you got these deep root trees, and in everything being some threes. So you even got the three R's that start the roots. So you got the cords, and now you got these tree roots, because you got some trees you got to chop down. And the trees are root of bitterness. So that's a R. I mean, a root of unforgiveness. I'm going to try to write them in a chat. The root of unforgiveness. Oh, wait. My bad. I said that wrong. The root of bitterness, which is unforgiveness. That's a root that has some leaves. It leads to certain things. That leads to infirmity. Okay. And you have the rebellion. That's a root that leads to witchcraft, that leads to rebellion against God, that brings in Leviathan, Jezebel, all of that stuff. And then you have rejection, and then that leads to like self-hatred, that leads to self-disgust, that leads to turning on yourself. So this is a very destructive foundation that all of the demonic spirits feed on. They feed on these roots. Just like Christ is our tree, okay? He's the tree for us, and now we are the branches. We can be in him, and that's life, and that bears fruit. That bears fruit of patience, peace, love, joy, self-control, faithfulness, gentleness, goodness. That's peace. That's his tree. This tree, the opposite tree here, this brings in, the sickness, the death, the self-hatred, the hatred of the world, the jealousy, the envy, the strife. It goes to those hands. Fantasy lust, lust of the world, lust for self, like all of these things start to happen. And then it gets you further separated from God. So what he was showing me is, okay, in this picture here, so it's kind of it's on a whiteboard, so I'm gonna scroll down, but I'm just gonna show you how it looks, since we can only see a part of it. But he showed me, he was like, all right, now he's talking to me like, hey, Keisha, you got a couple of trees here. You got this tree here, and this is your generational blessings. We did have some people in the family that was prayerful. We had a couple of them. And he said, you got this tree here. It's like, this is what's going on with you. You got these generational curses, and you got this idolatry. And he was like, and I'm trying to, like, now that you're choosing this tree, he gonna show me how this got like this. So pretty much these pink hearts, those are our sparks. That's that spark of life. That is somebody that you are born and you just want to love God, and God he gave you this purpose over your life, and that's how we come in the world. But a lot of us probably had parents who weren't married or got divorced or had trauma and opened up this tree. So we probably more on this side. To totally be like this, a lot of times these people here had two believing parents that were in a covenant marriage, no fornication, no defilement, and they gave birth to a righteous seed that was a covenant seed, okay? That's rare in America. That's you might see it in the Amish community. You might see it in 1 or 2 couples. That's probably about 10%. We don't really see that a lot. Most of us are this. So he was showing me like over here with this trauma. So you're born into the womb, and now your heart can go either way into the womb. So the enemy attacks, rejection gets in the womb as soon as the parent like, oops, I ain't want to be pregnant. Are they arguing? Are they fighting? All of that is iniquity that's being downloaded. Every time your parents was beefing and doing stuff and all of that, you were getting an iniquity download. You know, I'm just kind of reading your comment. Yes, this is how that work, Alicia. Yes, like we gotta know this stuff. He was like, I gotta show you this because I'm drawing it like God, but this not helping my heart. He was like, let me focus on this. I was like, okay, God, but one day I gotta have it help my heart. But he did help my heart. Now this so when we have our trauma, so in childhood, something happened. You know, you got some things went on. If you grew up in a narcissistic family, you know, you probably had some sibling on sibling stuff happening. You probably had some family members coming over. They're doing stuff, touching there, doing things they shouldn't be doing. Probably got into some situations where some adults came and did some harm. So that stuff was going down. And then, you know, the plot thickened because then you had, you know, Ouija boards getting introduced. So some people have that go down in a tree where they getting into, they're being groomed to be able to manipulate the spirit realm. That was myself. Like I was kind of the first granddaughter. It was some Eastern Star things going on, some occult things, Freemasonry stuff. People that come from these bloodlines, it's generational iniquity already starting at the spark of life to try to get to that spirit man. So we get a living soul once our brains start to be activated. Our soul mind starts to develop. So that's a different part that gets attached to us, and that's a different part that the enemy tries to use for wickedness and in prison. So we got soul parts, spirit. So spirit man is the main one that causes us to be double-minded. It causes us to be two-spirited. So this trauma, what happens, we start to, you got some childhood things, and Jesus come for you. He came for me. I'm like, God, I love you. You know, even as a child going through this, you know, you still loving Jesus and stuff. So he there too. So now you got a moral compass going on here. That's the pink little moral compass. So trauma happened to these people. Now here, if you was the one that was going to church and everything, or kind of loving God a little bit, even though you didn't know much about him, but you wasn't like the other family members, you were kind of here. You had some moral compass going on. Some of them don't have a moral compass. So what I can use myself and my oldest brother, that straight narcissist, can use him. We had similar backgrounds. He chose to abandon his. So as a child, you might have some things going on. You might have some rebellion. You're going to have some Antichrist spirits starting to rise up, because the Antichrist is just everything opposite of Christ. So if Christ is love, it got some hate. If Christ is forgiveness, it got some unforgiveness. You know, if Christ is, as far as like selfless, it's selfish. You know, Antichrist is just a mirror opposite. It's the black mirror. It's pretty much Satan's kingdom, but he's the kingdom of self. So yeah, Harry, the affair baby. Yep. So, and that's, I'm gonna show that video too on how they do them downloads, because when a parent gives you up, and a parent kind of does that, they kind of dedicate you, the spirit realm at the spark of life, they break the spirit. So they can do a ritual while the person is pregnant, and they can shatter the spirit, and fallen angels in them can kind of try to take part to that person's spirit and enslave it. And then they can get into the body. Like they'll start coming in that person's dream as a child. They'll start, you know, if the person is getting hurt, oh, okay, look, we can do this. This is how we're going to get away with it. We're going to go and we're going to, you know, set this trap up, or let's prank them, or that they start doing that, but they're getting more and more into the person's body. And a lot of times you will have this dissociation happen. I had a lot of dissociation. So with the dissociation, your memories of childhood, it's just scattered. You might have some here and there, but you will have pictures like you in, but you don't remember taking. So a lot of times that means that a fallen probably had a covenant with you, or you had some bloodline contracts to where they dedicated their generational seed for money or for whatever. Eastern Star and some of them lodges and stuff, and them sororities and things, they say like you get these perks, but in a fine print, that stuff go back to Satan as far as your bloodline. So people be having something, they dedicate their bloodline when they make pledges. And those are things we do that we don't know. But that language, the delta is your doorway to your mind. So I seen that translation in the Bible, in the Hebrew. You got to always look up the Strongs, and that take time. But when you look at what the words say, and you like, is they do this all the time. You'll be surprised. Hey, they over there, they know Hebrew. They took the language. You notice we know every language but Hebrew and Aramaic. That's the language we supposed to know. But they use it in everything. All of our words, even pay, all of that is Hebrew. It just means something different. That's why I do make that announcement. I'm gonna get to it. I might get to it today, but I'm trying to stay on with one topic here. So we got so here we got this double mind. So what the narcissists and them do, iniquity gets put in their heart. So we get these iniquity downloads. And then what the iniquity does, they abandon their self. So my brother was doing some pretty crazy, sick things. And he don't ever talk about or deal with it. Like it just, the elephant in the room. And so he abandoned that part. Like that's just another him that he might do in secret. But it's like when they abandon themselves and they refuse to deal with that, they just abandon this moral compass, the right from wrong. They start making up their own version of who God is. He was like, he feel like God gonna forgive the devil one day. He just made that up. Something telling them that, but he was believing it. Like we go to this area, he gonna plead his cause on why he was doing this adultery, and he gonna be sorry about it. But God know him, and it's only 144,000 that's gonna make it anyway. This is the kind of delusional religiosity lies that the narcissists be having in their minds, because their minds are ziggity boo. Like when you think they in church and you think that they know the word and they praying with you and everything, that is an act. That's a mask. They don't even know what's like when they really talk about their beliefs. It is totally opposite of that. They done made something completely up. They were just acting. They know how to act in prayer. They know how to do all of that stuff. But that is not true. None of it. Yes. Yes, Harriet, I'm telling you that. Now, Harriet, have you ever went through like soul healing, like the healing of the soul and the spirit and deliverance? Like, have you ever went through like those steps just to really be counseled on that? So yeah, just let me know if that happened, because that kind of healing, what I call SRA, and that's the satanic ritual abuse, that's a different kind of healing process than just somebody trying to cast out demons. Because here, so we yeah, you should email me, but that's kind of what I'm getting into now, because that's what I had to go through. And a lot of times, like when we go through something, when God bring us through it, it's for a reason. And if somebody haven't been through it, it's hard for them to understand how to really reach these areas. Like there are certain areas, if you had strategic, like satanic type of ritual abuse, and I think narcissism is real close. It is so, because they do all of the different ritual steps that they do in these rituals. You just older when it happens, but it's really close to that. Like you would probably need the same kind of healing as well. But when it break the spirit and spirit parts are in captivity in areas, and I'm gonna go through those slides, those areas have to be reunited. Like we have to pray just to ask God to go to that particular prison and get you out. Or you will still just always have those recurrent torments. You'll have things like if you in a if you part of you is in the underworld, you will have just feeling like people chasing you, feeling like somebody trying to you running from people that's trying to kill you, like them kind of dreams, dark dreams, seeing a lot of shadow figures. You will see a lot of things that come from the darkness, fear. Shadow figures is main one. If it's marine, you'll have a lot of perversion type dreams. You'll have a lot of masquerading spirits. The spirit spouses are always be in your dreams. You'll be in water, seeing water. Something about water is always going on when it's a marine kingdom attachment. So it's finding out where the prisons are. A fortress is a fortress of lies. When you just been around somebody with lies for so long, and that part of your mind is entrapped in a lie belief system that you believe. You know, you got to get that part of your soul out, and then you got to attach it to yourself, or you're gonna always keep falling into the trap of believing a liar. So that some things have to be addressed when there's these prisons. Let me see. My ex told. Let me see. That's what they do. I mean, this stuff is the kingdom of darkness. They are strategically organized. They do the targeted individuals. They do the gang stalking. They got direct energy weapons that target people that has these iniquity strands in them, have you feeling like you vibrating and all of that stuff. It's so many diabolical weapons, but that's where that black goo iniquity stuff has to come out. And that's the in a video before when I was showing like how the black goo, in order to have that, because you got graphene and you got graphite, but the black goo is attached to occult bloodlines or wickedness bloodlines. There are iniquity trees, this curse here, and that's how my tree was. They extremely wicked. It's just a wicked tree. You know, everybody is into whoredom and drugs and all of that stuff, and it's just a very wicked tree. So it's a high iniquity there. And witchcraft, and they out, you know, taking men out, like not living, like they not living. But that's where they really target that seed. So they use the women, and they introduce the women into the dark arts and seduction, and then that would defile the man and remove his authority, and then they enslave the man. And that's their end game, is to that life that we seen. They want to stop life at all costs. That's the seed of the serpent is at war with the seed of the woman. That's humanity. The man carries the seed. So because the man carried the seed, the way Satan sets it up, he takes the women, and usually their father is the one that's the culprit on that. You know, they take them, defile them, train them to now be used to start destroying the men, defiling and destroying the men. And then the men, they do the same thing. They do more of the defiling of the women. So it go hand in hand. It's not a chicken and an egg here. It's a strategic plan, because if both people are destroying each other, no seed is being produced. That's all the enemy wants. He just can't have life. You know, he got his own army now. He got enough to where he can replicate this thing, and he ready to get rid of all humanity. AI is trying to take over. That's where that come in. That's all his kingdom. Might as well call AI Metatron, because he really on that. But when we're here, the narcissists, when they can abandon themselves, their moral compass, your moral compass is when God said he'll write it on our minds and he'll write it on our hearts. He inscribes his laws, his covenants. It's a moral compass, a conscience with your human spirit that you will do right automatically. Like, it's hard for a child, unless they are possessed and full of demons and something else, to just grab a knife and want to kill somebody. That usually don't happen, because they're programmed. They're programmed out of God's love. They're programmed with an innocence. That's the moral compass. When you constantly go against that, you can burn it out and you can abandon it. That's why 1 Timothy, and I think it's 1 Timothy something. He talk about the seared conscience, beware of seducing spirits, and then he tell you about searing the conscience. So you don't want to burn it out by constantly doing repeated iniquity. But the narcissist did. They burnt it out. It's gone. They abandoned themselves. And even the neurophysicists will tell you that. That's why they can use them to see about this mind control, because they abandon their true self. But when you abandon your moral compass, it causes your soul to be inhabited and controlled by what I call personality demons. So they can be Nephilim, fallen angels, but you got a programmer, whether it's Venus, the moon, somewhere, and they are like, every time this is happening, it causes your behaviors to do something different. And the way you can know if you got a programmer or not that's attached to one of these kingdoms, you're going to gravitate towards it. So you might be like, I like the full moon, or I like the moon, I'm this and that. And I like Venus, I'm loving the shells, I'm loving dolphins, I like the water. And so whenever you kind of gravitate into, I like the forest, the nymphs, and whatever the gravitation, that lets you know where your programming, which entity was kind of show you a video on that real soon. I'm just getting through this chart and I'm gonna show some real good videos, so just bear with me, okay? I'm gonna try to give you about 20 minutes maybe. The person rejects God and they create a version of God where they can still be wicked and saved, or believe they are God. So with this, when they got, this is their tree, they on a tree of idolatry. It's the kingdom of self. That's all the Antichrist is. Lucifer said he will exalt himself. He will be like the Most High. He will set up his kingdom amongst the people and all of that. He got them 5 eyes. That's exactly what the narcissist doing. So they are in a kingdom of self, which is Lucifer tree. And then you got Christ tree, which is different. It's love and compassion. Okay. And it's different. And so when somebody have made this up in their heart, me against the world, I'm about my money and that's it. Their heart becomes hardened towards God. They abandon his laws. They like, I'm done with that. God says, I don't do that. Well, it don't matter if the Bible say that. Well, how you know the Bible right? They said it, read it in Hebrew, bruh. Like, I don't care what you do. Learn a different language then. Figure out Aramaic and Hebrew and read it in that. But the other team, they seem to be using everything about this Bible. And at their little Darvo convention with the World Economic Forum, he literally said, okay, and their Bible say the word was made flesh. Okay. So they coming at Christ. So obviously they scared of Christ because AI is always coming for Christ. So something about this Bible is got AI scared. They don't like to talk about Yeshua. They don't like to talk about Yahuwah. They give you false information. I'm gonna do a teaching just on how much AI be lying when it comes to them, because they be lying. AI is a liar. And he even said it in a forum. He said AI can lie and manipulate better than any human. I got it. I got that on the video. I'm telling you, all you got to do is listen to them. They tell you what they do, because Satan is like the narcissist. The narcissists tell you what they do. They just confuse you with it. They be like, yeah, I'm about to hurt you. Man, I was just playing. No, I'm going to hurt you, though. But I'm playing, maybe. But I'm going to hurt you. But I'm playing. I'm going to hurt you, and I'm playing. How about that? That's what they do. It's confusion. It's babble. They still back in antiquity. That's what the narcissists do. Oh, yeah, I cheated on you. Nah, man, you act like I didn't cheated on you, because I did cheat on you. Nah, man, I ain't cheat on you, but I did. But you don't know I cheated on you, because I'm telling you I cheated on you. Word salad, that's them. That's gaslight and ziggity boo madness. That's exactly how daddy the devil do. He do exactly that. And he tell us, man, I'm not the Antichrist, but I am the Antichrist, because I'm anti-Christ, But nah, don't think I'm the Antichrist, but I'm antichrist. So we gotta understand, like, this is how this working. So since they coming for us, because they doing their thing. They said they gonna eliminate everything with words. He made the announcement, so they making laws. They trying to get rid of all these jobs. They trying to put everybody to the half. We gotta get the word in us and understand our identity, because we can fight this. We got power in our word. And so when a person reject God, they create a new version, and then they create their own God. They have many idols and vices. A narcissist cannot exist without being stimulated, because the demons have to be worshipped, and they got a short time to be worshipped. So they have to use this body that they took over to get as much worship energy as they can get. So they need all the attention. They need all the sex. If they're a water spirit, they need all the dark suicidal type of thinkings and all of that stuff if they are attached to the kingdom of darkness, or Sheol, because that kingdom likes dread, gloom, doom. That's a darker energy, a lower vibration. They need whatever that thing that dominates them. They can be a nymph, like, flower spirit, or whatever dominates them. They have to be consumed by that, because their time is short and them idols need to be worshipped. So if they into addiction, they gonna party hard all the time because the thing that's in them want to get as much use out their body before that body is gone. Because they know human bodies only can last for so long. They are in, and then they just gonna go to the next family member. See, they stay in the family. That's what they do. They stay in the family. So a lot of times the families pass away, the narcissists get worse. That they just go straight to the next vessel. Yeah. Yes, they will. They would go, when it's a transaction, them ones that know what they doing in the occult, them ones that can send them spirits to you and all of that, that's calling up ancestors and doing all that stuff, that's a dangerous ground. Yep, they would use that transaction with that money. They would use any kind of transaction or interaction to be doing what they doing, thinking they just gonna get some power. They're gonna do this a little bit, but they don't understand. Sometimes people be chosen. When you messing with somebody God got his hand on, or God got an anointing on, and they doing what God's telling them to do, that backlash ain't no joke. Them demons gonna turn on a narcissist. So a lot of times when you see a narcissist really getting jacked up, it's because they mess with the wrong one. God got certain things. It's a certain way this work. When you out of line, certain things might happen. But just like David wasn't messing with Saul, the narcissists sometimes they pick wrong. You can't be messing with God's people. When they infiltrate in the church, see, they got the mindset that everybody in the church fake, but everybody in the church ain't fake. There's some people that really got some real hearts, and they getting with the wrong people, and they messing with God's people, and that's just, they getting jacked up. He said, don't do that. Don't touch my anointed. Don't do my prophets no harm. And it's not like we're using it in a way that we gonna speak because people do that angrily. I ain't saying that, but the word is the word. So when if it's somebody that God got his hand on, even if they don't know they call yet, like if he got his hand on them and they doing some stuff, the angels handle that, and then they team turns on them, and that's when you see a very broke down narcissist. What they would call they call it something. If anybody know the term, I don't know if it's destabilized. It's something when a narcissist is just totally jacked out. That's what happens with them. But here, when this is the main thing they come in agreement with, and that's that unloving. They come in agreement with a lying spirit. So in a deceiving spirit, it talked about in the book of Kings, where he was up there with Ahab and Jezebel. Remember now, he was with he said, I'm gonna go down there and I'm gonna be a lying spirit in the mouths of their prophets. So it shows that when a lying spirit gets involved, a lot of times the supernatural is involved. So you might have false prophets around when you're dealing with a narcissist. You're going to have them speaking curses and things, manipulating spirit realm, things happening, witches, psychics, all of that is going to kind of be around, because this one here, the lying, deceiving spirit, that's a fallen angel because it had wings. And that's one that actually can embody the person. So when they're constantly speaking and they're lying, and we're like, they just keep lying, they won't stop lying. This thing is what it does. That's its function. A spirit can only do its function. So a water spirit can only deal with water. A air spirit can only manipulate the air, tornadoes, whatever they're going to do. Different spirits do different things. A mind control spirit is going to take the tentacles and bring madness. It can only deal with your mind and manipulate your mind. A spirit of darkness or a spirit of fear is going to scare you. That's its function. It only does its function. The destroyer is going to destroy everything it touches. It can't do anything else but destroy and decay. That's one they come with. So they come with embodiments of these. So this is like, say this is one. They got about, like that one in the Bible. We just gonna stick with the Bible. The one where he said he cast out 7 demons. He cast out 7 strong men. So he cast out 7 of them that was like this, like a deceiving spirit. Some with them main, like what they consider the deadly sins. But he cast out, like, you got a deceiver, you got a destroyer, you got a like Pan up in there, the perversion one. They get really, really nasty. And that Beelzebub is involved. The ones that like the backdoor entry stuff, that's Beelzebub. That's because he's the so-called Lord of the Dung, like the poop. And so you'll have a lot of flies and decay and stuff around. And those bring death spirits. I'm gonna show you why. I'm gonna show you why in a minute. Let me get through this slide here, and then we're gonna go into what they do. So they enjoy manipulating, lying, cheating, stealing, sexual immorality, sin. That's 2 Timothy 3. These people have a debased mind, and they are typically dissociated. So the real them is gone. The true self is in the Lulu. Okay, they're in the Lulu land, whichever the Lulu land they want to be in. They're not checking in no time soon. And it's the persona demon becomes the gatekeeper for all the other demons. Okay, this is what God was showing me. So say this is the unloving Antichrist. This is now the gatekeeper. It made the different parts of the soul so that these other demons can have a home. So this is the gatekeeper, not the Holy Spirit and not the human spirit. This is a whole different dark thing. That's why they can have the black eyes. They can have all of that stuff. Because it's just they're turned over, and they've had so many covenant contracts and generational curse iniquity that thing took them. And unfortunately, some of them might not even like come back when it's the end of life. Like I just had a person was talking about their relative. They didn't even repent at the end of life. Sometimes their tongue will get stuck and they won't even be able to speak and say sorry. This is how bad this thing is. So when we trying to wait and see if this narcissist gonna get saved or if they gonna see the love of God in us, that's the Lulu for us. They're not. You dealing with this thing. That wasn't for us. That's one we can't fight. They got the fallen angel wings. That's different. That's just too much. But over here, this is where God can get us. He can get us to kind of, just stop. He can come in. He'll get us to quit sinning, renounce this idolatry, break these curses. We got to renew the mind. We got to start finding out who he is. That's a task, because everything fights you to understand anything about the Bible. So you might watch the movie or however. You got to go through the deliverance. You got to cast out these things. I went through so much deliverance as far as even in my closet. I'm not talking about dealing with some people. Let God be your deliverer. For real, you can go in the mirror and just let him just like, God, I don't want to do this. He got this. He got it. Everybody else, don't let people take your money or nothing, because they do that. But, it's like he really got each and every one of us. You seen that spark of life? That's him. He loves us. And then we got to start coming out of agreement with these things. We got to understand we get tricked. And then we got a lot of different food and stuff, these drugs and poisons they put in the food. All of that is iniquity. That is, they got it from the bubonic plague and whatever. And they putting it directly in us. I'm going to do that on a medical teaching. But I want to get into this guy video real quick. A couple videos. I want two people to explain how this works. And then you can kind of have an understanding on how like what I'm talking about. I'm trying to get it to all make sense. So let me see if I can pull this up to where you guys can see and hear it. Oh wait. No. And then let me get it to the volume here. I think I was supposed to click that. So recently we had recent events. Yay. That's why I had to like postpone it for 2 days, because it's another group. It's a lot going on globally, okay, with these announcements globally. And so these kingdoms have merged, period, point blank. So when the narcissist got more wicked, when CERN came on the scene, he gonna tell you why. Oh, whoops.
Greetings to Mantle. I believe that's a very loaded question. I believe that we have to understand, and I'm going to try to give the redacted answer, but the church has to understand we are not living in the same timeline. Times have changed. We are experiencing the greatest dispensational shift. Now, what does that mean? So when we shifted, there were powers that were locked up in the earth. You have powers under the earth, powers from the sea, powers from the air. They have converged. And so some of you do not believe in extraterrestrial beings. These extraterrestrial beings have now amalgamated in strength and power.
And that was my next question. Go there.
So why are we seeing the level of demonic presence, Apostle, is because when the earth shifted, a lot of those powers that were locked up, because remember, we are in global power structures are in there's, and I have to be very careful of what I say because they'll come back for me, but I'm going to say enough for you to understand what I'm saying. Right. There are global power brokers who are working with certain machinery. And when they send certain sound waves into certain dimensions, it provokes things that have been locked up under the earth from the sea. You understand that? And so now what you do have, we used to talk about astral projection. That's obsolete. That's actually like a walk in the park. Now you have shapeshifters.
Yes. Yes.
So these powers, they have come together and they're matching in strength, and they are challenging those individuals who call themselves apostles and prophets. And case in point, I was in a meeting, and I was in several meetings over the last year, and three of those meetings, they had channelers present. I don't know if you all know what those are. They let these demonic deities tell them what's happening. So all three of these agencies were global agencies. Yeah. They had these channelers present. And I was wondering, well, why these people got these demons now present at every meeting, every high profile meeting? So I ran into someone at a particular agency and I said, well, why y'all had that woman in there telling y'all? He says, Jason, the earth is shifted from 3D to 5D. We are closer to the spirit world.
I want to say something real quick about that, because what happened, so this is kind of, and I'm gonna do one just on this. I'm gonna do a teaching just on this because it goes into the medicine. When they have opened up CERN, they were getting knowledge, forbidden knowledge. So that is a black hole, and the abyss is what they would consider space, I guess, because you got an outer darkness. The Bible calls things outer darkness. You have an underworld, Sheol. And you have where he said Abaddon Apollo, they summoned him up, okay, because he was dealing with, some things over there. And when they went and got these sorcery books from the Pharaoh, and then when they dug them up, okay, they went and got that Egyptian stuff, and they're trying to recreate the Egyptian stuff here, because the Egyptians, Ramses and them, the ones that were destroyed with the when Moses was getting his people set free, all of them plagues, God was destroying each one of their gods. Okay, he was letting them know he's God Almighty. So Set and all of them, Set is Satan, another name for him. They brought that stuff here because he completely annihilated it over there. He said they not gonna rebuild nothing when he done. And God, he about that. Like, he ain't about to let them do that. And even here, they defeated. Christ did what he did, so they're done. Like, this is not antiquity. We have power. They don't want us to have power, but we do. And until some reason we're not here, believers, the Holy Spirit, they cannot fulfill what they trying to do. I don't care how many channelers they got, but they channeling Baal and them. Like, they got some people they fractured. This come to the fracturing and the narcissist. Okay, narcissist. The only thing you have to do is not have a moral compass, and something else can take you over. So narcissists, trauma, people that have been fractured in trauma, people who are in the occult, and people who are chemically separated with like LSD, hallucinogens, certain drugs that take you out of yourself. Those are the kinds that are able to be inhabited by these type of beings that need to be channeled, because they're locked away. Like the fallen angels are locked up. Like you got some, they locked up. They can't just come and do what they want to do and walk around. Christ locked them away. They need a body. Our bodies are the key. We're the gatekeepers. We're the keys. And so you can channel in, you got that connection because that spark with the spirit realm. So you can either channel in God's kingdom or you can channel in these kingdoms of darkness. That's how that works. Anytime a narcissist is with you, they're offloading demons. They're channeling them in. They are a channeler. So he's talking about how at these government meetings, these channelers are showing up and they're coming for God's people. So if you got assigned a narcissist within 2012, when they first start firing up CERN, this is why you got assigned a narcissist. All right, let me go back to where he at. Those are the captivities. We're going to talk about that. Let me bring him back up. All right.
And he comes back up with marine power.
Okay.
So I run into...
Maybe we was right there.
Coming Antichrist. And I'm going to play a one...
Greetings to Mantle.
I'm going to get good at this side, y'all.
Well, one's now present at every meeting, every high-profile meeting. So I ran into someone at the... Why y'all had that woman in there telling y'all... He says, Jason, the earth is shifted from 3D to 5D. We're closer to the spirit I'm giving you, breaking it down. So he says, we no longer, these are people who are under the influence of demonic deities. They're not playing. I'm talking about people who go under the sea. I've sat with them at tables. There's one guy that I was talking to. He was sent by a particular agency to recruit me. And he goes under the sea twice a year. And he comes with marine powers. You understand that? Another guy can have a lot of authority. And so what is happening now? Back to the guy. The guy said to me, well, because the earth shifted and we are so aligned to the spirit, we cannot make global decisions no longer without the support of the spirit. These are the demons talking. So I said, well, what about, in my mind, well, what about the church? Then following up, somebody else said, well, they were talking about the church. And I'm saying all of this to lay as a backdrop because we are really not in a time of playing. This stuff is really serious. So there is a particular global agency who has consulted with high-ranking demonic Janus and Jamborees.
Yes.
And they have given the names of at least about 40 to 50 known frontline apostolic apostles and prophets.
Yes.
And they asked this prophetess, they call her the prophetess, but we know it's prophetless. It's not prophetess. You understand that? They give her an assignment to vet those individuals in the spirit.
Yes.
To see if their credentials in the spirit are authentic, if they have the weight and the authority, because they're still, God still has the remnant restraining things in the spirit.
Yes.
So what it is, this particular group of individuals, they have an assignment.
Yes.
This is why I pray for my brothers and sisters, because if an attack on you, apostle, is an attack on the kingdom. So people don't understand that. You know, if you go down, the kingdom goes down. A whole dimension, everybody's resume in the spirit to see where they rank, to see if they have the authority, you know, and predicated on that, her job is to either shut them down and override their authority. That is why not every exposure that you see now is because of malicious sin. These people, if you understand the realms of the spirit, there's a dimension called the Akashic records. They go up in those dimensions. Anybody remember the Bible says as far as the east is from the west? The Bible doesn't talk about that, the Akashic records. because it's referring to that when it says he has removed your sins from as far as the east is from the west. That is where it is stored in the Akashic dimensions. These witches and warlocks, they go up and they begin to snoop and they pull and they look. Oh, let me see what Apostle Ryan, let me look what his resume is like. Let me see Dr. Jason Renville. Let me look at this one. Let me look at that one. And then they would conjure spirits.
Right.
And assign spirits to be on your heels.
Right.
And they wait for a moment. They look at your weakness, your strength, and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say, the names of these people have been given, but if we do not have the kind of power and the jurisdiction like we are claiming to have, we are going to see over the next 2 years, and I'm speaking to you, this is not prophetic now. This is what I was told by real-time intelligence. Over the next 2 years, at least 40 to 50 people that we know, if they're not legitimate, they will be dissolved.
Right.
See what I'm saying? That's what we're dealing with. So, I mean, the urgency is there because, this was 2 years ago. And this is, now someone has sent that to me, but it's like, when we going through certain things, and I'm trying to, let me see if I can bring up what that would look like. Because even October, I want to show y'all what was sent to me. Like everybody that got a call on their life, especially if you know how this go down and you ain't playing with the devil, they coming. They do things. They send people. And a narcissist was sent. They were sent at a very strategic time. And God was really showing me that, like how they were strategically placed. A lot of times they might have some commonalities. They might have some things where you like, oh, well, I do that too. Y'all really feel like y'all vibing, but it's on the total opposite side. They got the total opposite side. And yes, that Akashic record, that is your tree. That's your sin. That's your iniquity. What your bloodline was into. So they're going to send you somebody familiar, because those are the familiar spirits. And they're going to send you somebody that, if they know that you might like somebody that's saved with swag, they're going to send you a very spiritual, swagged out devil. And you ain't going to know what hit you. Like this, you're going to be like, man, I'm feeling something strong. They know how to make that soul manipulate. They know how to send weapons. Like that, they got things in the natural that they talk about to make people feel a certain way about a person. They can do that. That technology, technology is fallen angel made. That's it. The fallen angels make all of that. They had all of that in antiquity. They had all of that in their so-called golden age when they was ruling and enslaving humanity. Jesus shut that stuff down for a reason, because it come with a cost. Yeah, they're going to give you this medicine, but it's going to come attached with a piece of them. That's how they do. Because Satan trying to build his army. He trying to fight this thing with God. He know he gonna lose, but he just thinking he delusional. He the main top delulu. For some reason, he think, well, if I keep on building it big enough, maybe, knowing that he see that he lose every day. Every day he see it. That's delulu. That's why they delulu. So the iniquity. I'm gonna just kind of go over a couple of these slides and show you what this lady said. As far as she had her story a little different, because she shows how things get downloaded. So when some narcissists are extremely cold and wicked, they might have this kind of programming, and their DNA can change. Like she was turning into a mermaid. I mean, we just kind of dealing with that stuff now. It's crazy. These are iniquity seeds: the sexual sin, generational curses, the occult, the sorcery, pharmakia. That's like the whispering. And I should have put on here, murder, but I don't want the video to get blocked. But the unaliving or bloodshed, you got to have some bloodshed. And let me see. I want to see if I got her slide on here. I want to talk about these little prisons that people get caught up in right here. So parts of the soul, you got your nutrition, your sensation, imagination, the way you think and perceive things, and the stimulation and stuff. These are all parts of like the soulish part of you. So this is like different from your spirit and inner parts. Your spirit is your conscience as far as your moral compass. That's different. You got these areas here. Now, this is the one that's going to be talking about the mermaid. This is kind of what she depicted this as far as how they program people. But this, when you look at these, not to be confused with New Age, okay? This is not New Age. Hey, China. I want you on here too sometime. Like we gotta talk and plan this thing out, because I can talk, but I do want, like, I want to have other people perspectives, because we all dealing with this. This is some stuff. And so when they programming people to this, like say the narcissists get programmed. The narcissist is a very good example to use, because they are completely taken over. So in the womb, based on family or whatever, they were opened up to this. And then say they had some trauma or abuse. A lot of them had some childhood abuse. Well, they start getting programmed, like these little places here. These are places in the neck. These are places in the arms and the chest. These are gate openers that Christ had left for us to experience him in. When he talk about our parts, and I'm gonna have to go into that on a different teaching, because he do talk about each part in a Bible. But these are different areas where he invites himself to kind of take over, so that we are all walking in him. So he manages our appetite, the fasting and stuff, so that these demons ain't taking over our gut. He come in, he cleanses our hands, the palms. He gives us life, so we can like do healing and stuff through our hands, through him. And the crown of the head and the soles of the feet are very important, because when they do stuff, when you got them back doors, okay, this is an entry point by your spine and by that below area. And if somebody do that, they are tethered. This is tethered to Sheol. So when you start getting into the main entry points, this is madness. When they into that second heaven, they into madness and Lululand, delusional stuff. Usually they done made up a different God. They done did all this other stuff. They are taken over by one of these celestial fallen angel type of powers. And then if they doing both things, this tethering to the kingdom of Sheol here, because they've been repeatedly having iniquity cords there. When they repeatedly have iniquity cords, that one, you will start seeing the flies and people passing away and decay, a lot of stuff just not going right. Though they are highly destructive. And that one will give you infirmity and a chronic illness. And a lot of times the guys is, prison ones that be out on that DL, when they come out, this is what they are tied to. Okay, it's very dangerous. It is very dangerous, because when they open themselves up to the darkness in that kind of way, they allow this thing to completely take them over. And then that thing be talking to them like, hey, let me deal with this person too, while they trying to have relations. And then you'll be dealing with a whole Nephilim. Trying to procreate through the narcissist. So the narcissist, when they are trying to impregnate somebody, they trying to get and they got this going on. Remember, they taking over. The ones that taking them over, they're trying to get a seed of them into the egg. And it don't always work like that, because a lot of seed come out at a time when they're trying to, procreate. So a lot of times, it's a needle in a haystack, but they are trying to make Nephilim babies. Sometimes people have demonic children from these experiences, but it's just, they doing a crap shot. That's why they want everybody to have in vitro fertilization now with artificial wombs, because they more likely can add in that third strand and make a Nephilim child. That's what this is strategically diabolical. They are a different kind of evil. Up in their office. I know some moms. These are some of the prisons your soul can be in. And I got this from if you look at Canaan Ministries, she do a really good teaching on the captivity, how the soul get captured, but they'll put it in captivity. And these are the scriptures with it, if you go back and kind of screenshot them. But we talk about bringing the life out of the prison, and this is how, when an enemy shatters you, okay, trauma from childhood, shattering, then trauma from a narcissistic discord. Narcissistic discord will shatter your spirit. They want to shatter so that they can put your pieces in these prisons, and these are things they will make you feel. So if your soul is in a prison, just really forgiving yourself, calling on Christ, understanding his love. The one thing the enemy want people to feel is guilt, shame, condemnation, feel like I can't get this right, I'm still sinning. We all be jacked up. Okay, we didn't make it until we have him, and he got to help us make it. So we might be in a worse situation. We just start today talking to him. He the only one that can help us out of any type of sin cycle. Okay, I felt like I was chronic sinner. I was like, God, you think I don't know how to do without, doing and do. But now it's 3 years. So he do things supernaturally because that was a program. And I didn't know that was a program. So sometimes we have these demonic programs that we don't know, and he got to go and heal that little girl. He got to heal the one that was crying. He like, hey, you left us. You went and been a different Keisha. We need you because you were awesome, and don't leave her because I'm going to put you guys together because I'm still with her. He never leave us nor forsake us. So he might be with the 1-year-olders. We don't know. We got to find out. He'll start telling us things about ourselves. But with a narcissist, if we notice, most of our attention is always on somebody else. When you program as a child to always monitor your environment, you program as a child to look at yourself last. Even if you look at the things that you need, it's not to look at your spirit. What do your spirit need? And then because you have that gift, you're so great at giving it to other people. You can tell somebody else, hey, you just got to hang in there. You're doing such a great job. Don't be so hard on yourself. Like, you awesome. You got this. Just try again tomorrow. But you won't be able to do that with yourself, because that's how the program worked. The program trained you, because narcissistic parents are usually selfish. It trains you to be selfless, okay, completely self-sacrificing to that degree, and then not even know how or where to begin with nurturing yourself. It's like weird or taboo. Like, I don't know. I want to, like, I guess I'm fine. But you gotta nurture yourself. When you have a hard day, like, you know what, it's cool. We have hard days. I'm not gonna start fussing myself. I'm not gonna curse myself. We good. We got this. You got to be your cheerleader. And then you won't need a narcissist to cheerlead you. You won't need nobody to validate you. You gotta be like, man, I rock. High five the Holy Spirit, because he always, you got this. That's how he made you. That spark. Remember the spark. So Sheol, if somebody is in prison to Sheol, remember I showed you that thing where if they try to do that back door, they don't know why they like certain preferences. They don't know. They probably was watching nasty flicks. They had Nephilim, and then they already had the programming and stuff in them, from all the darkness that they took on and giving up their moral compass. That is why they are used that way. But the demons that's in them know, and they want you to be tied to Sheol so they can put infirmity, sickness, decaying type of diseases, autoimmune diseases, all of that on you. So depression, like a dysthymia depression, not just a depression like sad and that you might get a little medicine here and there, but you have happy days. Dysthymia, they never get happy. It's like complete sadness. Baseline is sad, and then deep, deep sadness if it's worse. It's never happy. It's like, I don't feel happy. I don't feel joy. I don't know what I feel. I'm just numb. That stuff. That's usually Sheol. And they talk about in Psalms 30, oh Lord, my God, I cried to you and you have healed me. And you have brought my life up from Sheol, the place of the dead. So you have kept me alive that I should not go down to the pit, to the grave. Most of the narcissists are tethered to the kingdom of death. So they are there. Like a lot of times when they talk, they like, speaking death over your projects, speaking death over, your finances, speaking death over things that you have. Pets are dying, different things are dying. It's like always gloom and doom because they tethered there. So part of their spirit is inhabited there. So they are drawn to death. So when your spirit man is fractured, spirit, remember the spark and the dust, and they can't keep it up, death guard. I ain't gonna bring a picture up on this, but I have a lot of videos where the death guard carried the spirit to the prison. When your spirit man, your light is in the darkness in the pit, and they're enslaved to it, they're there. The real them is there. So this body that's like their skin suit is being inhabited by a dead spirit. That's why Jesus was like, let the dead bury the dead. They're like zombies. And we got to understand that, because this here say it, that's where they at. And this person here, so I think this was David, but this is how he's not talking about somebody that's dead, because he said, you have brought my life up from Sheol. So he was still alive, and he was saying like he was there, and he got brought up. So this is what we got to do. That's the Walking Dead. And then you can be in a place of forgetfulness. If you like always forgetting stuff, like, dang, I forgot this, I forgot that. They call it brain fog. I forgot that. Oh my gosh. Like, where was I going? Narcissists do this. Okay. Your soul, you got a mind. Remember the alpha thing. You got different chakras, but the crown of your head, when Jesus has been removed from the covering, and you got a narc covering, especially if you're a woman and that thing is your covering, you're going to be ziggity boo. You can't be, if you're a female married to a male narc or in a relationship with a male narc, because the way that thing works, you will be ziggity boo. You will have the forgetfulness. So he tell us how that works here. It say should the steadfast love be declared in the grave, or your faithfulness in Abaddon? It show who's over that, the place of ruin and destruction. Now that they didn't put Abaddon up in the medicine and stuff, they done opened him up in the abyss. Yeah, he doing a bunch of stuff and ruling, because all the narcs, he already got them in his army. That's it. That's who their leader is. And he talk about the righteousness. I don't know what scripture that is. Probably the same one in Psalms. But he talk about the place of forgetfulness where the dead are forgotten. So a lot of times, if you got a piece of your soul here, you're going to always feel like, ain't nobody thinking about you. You're going to feel like, people just forgot about you. You don't get invited to things. They don't even ask about you. Your phone dry. Nobody, part of you might be there that you got to get healed from in order to come out of this. But if you got a lot of times where you constantly forgetting, the narcissist was the temple and there was an altar, and you got to see if one of your soul parts got trapped, and you got to ask Jesus to help me get my soul parts. That's Psalms 23:3. And I'm gonna just put that in here, because this is going to be the best scripture where he say he restores your soul. And breaking that whole thing down in a Hebrew and Aramaic, he literally going to the timelines, and he going to all of these 5 areas where the soul can be captured, and he gonna get your soul parts back. But if we don't know to ask him, and we just constantly there, the enemy like, hey, I still got legality. They ain't never say they wanted to be free. So we gotta know what we dealing with, so we can want to be free. And then talk about, more in Psalms 88, 10, 12, he talk about more as far as these places. So when you screenshot this and you go through your studies, just kind of look, because these are actual places that the Bible talk about. And so these are soul traps, ensnarements. When he be soul trapping and getting a narcissist, and you feel like a part of me is missing, or I have a void, or I don't know why, like I keep constantly thinking about this person, I don't know why I keep going back, chances are a piece of you is still imprisoned there, and them things are manipulating it, because you're going to be drawn to wherever your spirit is at. If your whole spirit is with you and with God, you're going to be drawn to that. If your spirit got fractured and parts of it is in the sea and parts of it is that, you're going to be drawn to fantasy. You're going to be drawn to the emu people. A lot of them are programmed here. They've been fractured, and part of them got taken by Sheol. So by the spirits of Sheol, it's a lot of disembodied spirits. It's like millions and millions, and they don't have bodies, and they need them. So they stalk us and come for us if they can get an open door. And then they talk about more as far as the forgetfulness. Then you got the devouring. 3 is probably after this. I probably got these out of order, but we'll go to 4. But 3 is a place too. I think that's the last. But you got the devouring spirits. These are the ones where they are jacking you up. Like you get those devouring illness. So a lot of those terminal illnesses are devouring. This is where you get a lot of people slandering and stuff, and just kind of how jackals and them do. They rip you to shreds. So you will be extra kind to somebody, and when he say like don't You know, he's talking about don't feed your pearls to swine, but he also talk about don't give what is holy to the dogs, or they'll turn and they'll bite you, but it's like ripping the shreds. Those are your devourers. Those are the ones that they will come for you and they will try to annihilate you. And if that constantly happens, a part of you can be stuck there. If a part of you is stuck there, it causes you to not want to trust people. It causes you to always kind of be surrounded by people that are going to hurt and betray you on a job. People that's always going to be turning on you, fake friends, all of that stuff. You kind of be in these cycles to where it's like this always happens, because you're drawn to people like that because a part of your spirit got captured and went to the devouring spirits. So you got to get those out. Only Christ can go and get them. Yep, that soul fragmentation, Harriet. That's when I say like this is so serious with a narcissist, because they are an occultist and they are doing what I really feel is satanic ritual abuse. When you look at the side by side, and I'm going to try to write it out to a comparison, it's probably only about 2 or 3 things that the narcissist don't do that somebody that is doing a satanic ritual abuse does. Probably about 2 or 3 things. Everything else, they on that list. They do the incantations. They got a ritual bed. They got an altar. They fragmenting. You know, they doing all of that. They just, their vice is sex magic, more than likely. A lot of them use that. Some of them doing burns and all of that stuff too, and taking your fingernails and stuff. You got to be careful these days. They can doing things over your picture. They doing all kind of stuff. This is the refuge of lies. Trusting in anything which is not God. So your soul will get trapped in this place, and that's namely the refuge of lies. So a lot of people getting trapped there, you know, and the reverse of this is making God our strong tower, because it say the name of Yahuwah, the name of God, is our strong tower. The righteous, they run to him and they are safe. So when we run to him, we can come out of this refuge of lies, because this is a stronghold. If somebody got a belief system, belief is different than faith that don't waver. Faith that don't waver is trusting in God. Every time that word is used, pistis, that means undoubting faith, but it means trust in him, trusting in Yeshua. That's all. That's trust in God faith. That's different than I believe this and I believe that. Belief is different. Belief is just a system. And, you know, Satan is good with systems. So a belief system, anything that deviates from what, you know, God is saying, it puts you in a fortress. And then that lying spirit, that's when they constantly can dominate. They love to go to that fortress. And that's this, you know, and we got to get out of that. And these are still the devouring spirits. So the bulls, the dogs, the jackals, when you see how these things operate, that wolf in that sheep clothing, oh, you was in a devouring spirit. You got a part of you that grew up around devourers. Usually it's that family. Usually the family is cutthroat. If you was growing up in a cutthroat family and you was getting sliced and diced all the time, part of you is in that devouring kingdom. And then anytime that they want to bring you up, the Panthers, I'm gonna say with them, they more seem attached to Sheol and wickedness, like occult, witchcraft, but they more attached to like the wickedness part, iniquity. They like a gatekeeper. These are like the different spirits that be attacking in this kingdom. Like this is more like slander, where biting at you, ripping you apart type people, or type of animals. Okay, this is the pit of despair. So this is like people who just cannot seem to get out of the sadness. And this is where we got to go, where he drew us out of the miry clay, that froth in that slime, and he set our feet upon a rock. You know, these are things that our soul will go through in these different places, and you will literally feel the heaviness. It's like a constant heaviness to where you can't really smile when you celebrating things. You can't really celebrate yourself. Even if you at a function or a wedding, you just like, yay, but it's a fake smile. Like I got videos in earlier times where I can see I just was smiling, but there was no smile. There was no joy in my countenance. It was like I put on a smile. And it's a difference when you got a smile with a joy and you just got a, yeah, it's good. But you think you smiling for real. It ain't until you like in your real self, until you healed and you look back like, man, who is that? I wasn't even, what was going on with me? You'll lose yourself. These narcs do that. And there is a place in hell, like with all these fortresses, like these things are real places to where they can go and hide your spirit. And it tells us how we get here in this scripture. Let me see if it Isaiah 28:14-17. It talk about how the scoffers in them, they get the mocking, and next thing you know, they in this fortress. And it said, because you have said, we have made a covenant with death. See that? That's in there. And with Sheol, okay, so that's two places, two different places. Sheol is something different than death. Death is a different one. So you got two of them. You made a covenant with death in Sheol, and that's the place of the dead where they abode. So you got these in-between spirits. So these are the ones that got their ancestors. When their ancestors is attacked, he told us don't do necromancy. He said, don't do necromancy. So all of this stuff that they promoting, Satan gonna always promote the opposite of what God say, because he wants to invoke God's wrath and turn God against the people so he can enslave them. That's how iniquity works. So when they doing his ancestors, the dead spirits that have dedicated their bloodline, they know that they can come back and live through their offspring. Okay, there's no love in the kingdom of darkness. No love. My grandmother, like the one that was the Eastern Star, when I was having those dissociations, when I would see her in my dream, like when you see the dead, that's a clear sign that some of this is going on. And so all of them blank areas, there was times she probably was doing this. I don't know. I know how this worked, and I know what she was doing, and I know what the dreams was, and I know I had these gaps, but they can do that. So when things like this is going on, we got to find out with the Holy Spirit. He'll start revealing stuff like pray for this, renounce this, say this prayer, do this. He gets you out of them contracts. And when you apply his altar and his blood to them other altars that was erected for you, he will demolish those. His blood covers every kingdom. All of these prisons, you just got to know about them. So you know that blood with the pray so you can get out of them. If you feeling symptoms, you got to get out of them. We was deceived. We was not taught this for a reason. They confused the language for a reason. If we knew Hebrew and we was taught that, it'd be a whole different story, because Yeshua name, like just God's name, like Yahuwah, like all of the Yod and the Vav and the Yod and the Hey, the Holy Spirit and stuff, that is in every letter. There is nothing written without him. That's why he said he is the word. Anything spoken out of our mouth is him. But they took all of that away, changed everything up so that we don't know who we are. Because we got inheritance. He died. He already did this. This is finished. The year of the Lord is here. Like he already did it. So and then they're trying to recreate their tribulation or do some things with that. But ultimately we can call them on their bluff. And then he said, when the overflowing scourge passes through, it will not come to us, for we have made lies our refuge. So, and in falsehood, we have taken shelter. This is key with the narcissist. So anytime you might have rescuers and everything happening, you might have inheritance happening and everything, they ain't going to come to you, because we have made lies our refuge. We start deceiving ourselves. We started feeling protected by the lie, by the false belief system. We started feeling comfort in it. And then we taken shelter in it, when the name of Yahuwah should be our stronghold, and we should run to him and be safe from all of this. But we was feeling security in the refuge of lies. So most people who's been with a narcissist, it was in this prison. I was in this prison. It took People couldn't even tell me I was lying. Like I was like, man, okay. I'll be no, of course, like, all right, and you say so. But I was feeling like, what you really know, But when God himself got to show you some things about you, and sometimes it take that agony, because I had a lot of pride and self-righteousness, because I knew this stuff growing up. So I'm like, it can't be that. I would have discerned that. When you dealing all in the spirit realm, you feel like, oh, I can discern that. That's not that. I know how to pray this. I'm going to pray against that. But the whole construct of who you are from a child was reinvented from trauma. You got to break all that down, be vulnerable, and just trust God every day. Can't trust in your own way to make money. Can't trust in none of that. When all of that got stripped, God had to show me, I got you. I need you to just relax. Some of us be type A and we got this and got that. 10 businesses and stuff. We got to just relax. And we got to just know who he is. We got to know him as father, as protector, as our carrier. If we a woman, all of that. Men got to know him as their role model on how they can, what they need to learn, and then how they can position themselves with him, how they partner with him so they can lead the rest of the children and the women. They gotta learn this stuff, how to get themselves back from these kingdoms and from these snake women that's taking their life force. That gotta happen. And then he tell us, he's laying a stone. This was Christ. He came, he gonna lay a foundation, and he did it. That's why he came. And he came to get us out of these prisons, and now the enemy got to trick us into being in the prisons. So I'm going to do one more film, like one more little set about this lady. I just want you guys to kind of see how it layers on, and then I'm gonna stop it. I know we kind of went late. I'm sorry. It'd be a lot to learn this stuff. It is definitely a lot. Let me see I do want to show that this is something my son drew. So when our kids get attacked, and let me see if I can put it on a different slide here. Look. When they get attacked, when we with a narcissist, this is the kind of stuff that comes for them. All right, you see this here? This is what this thing looked like. He got a gift where he can draw things that's in the spirit realm. Like he can see it and draw it. He can draw what's in marijuana and everything. And when I was with the ex, that's when it was really like attacking his mind. And he had, this thing was saying, come with me, my dear child. It had, see the snake tongue? That's a snake tongue. So this is a water spirit. It looked like Lilith, man, with the little snake hair. See the little snake hair? See what I'm saying? He was 14. And it said eternal suffering. See what I'm saying? So when we in these situations, this is not just about us. This is about our children. Because God was telling me, he was like, you were tripping, because I'm like, no. He was like, you was tripping. I had to pull you out of idolatry. It's not just because of you. It's because your children are crying out to me. It's because his namesake, he said, I got to pull you out of idolatry and religiosity. The church y'all started and all that, that's not me. That's idolatry. That's religiosity. That goes until we doing deliverance. But if you forcing stuff, you can go. Deliverance and divination is a fine line. That's a fine line. If the life is not right, if it's not purified, and the vessel is tainted, you can be doing demonic transfers, and it's a lot of people that be worse off. So you gotta be very careful, because my ex-narc is in that stuff. And when they know when they have this anointing, because a lot that spark happens, so they might have an anointing for some stuff. But when they have given that over to the demonic kingdom, and the kingdom is using it for dark stuff, whoa. Just like them prophets that's up there, them false ones that's summoning everybody's library, they have an anointing for the spirit realm. They just using it for darkness. So the anointing is still there. God don't take his spark away. They just, go into divination and witchcraft. That's all that is. A lot of witches are prophets that went left. But this, my son did this when he was 14. So this is just one of his things. And then, he got another one where he was talking about two souls in one. And I'll show that one when I get into a different teaching, but it shows how, let me see. Let's see if I can, okay, nope. Okay, maybe it's position. I don't even know how to rotate these things. Let me see. I want to, is it vertical? No. I'm trying to see how to rotate it, but I'll figure that out. I don't know. I gotta get like real savvy on here, but I'm trying to, I don't want it to be like sideways. Anyhow, but he was showing, see this little elf thing? You can see it sideways a little bit. So this thing was using the pain of him, you know, when he had to go to his place. And it was using the pain to say, hey, I understand, you know, but we share this body. You see that? And then it can help him with this stuff. It can give him some powers. And that's how they come for him. You know, this is iniquity. So these things, this is a elf spirit. It got a whole wardrobe and everything. We had to do spiritual warfare. You know, this stuff be serious, because when it attack your children, you know, it's like it puts a whole new perspective on it, because I knew the things I've experienced, you know, being taken out of my body. I ain't want the same for my children, and it came from my 6-year-old. Well, he's 11 now, but at 6, he was able to draw the Ursula thing. You know, they can draw these things, and he drew Pan. Both of them, they got artistic skills like no other, and they could draw what they were seeing. And so that's why we were so targeted. A lot of people are targeted, especially those that can see in the spirit. And I'll show how them things come in a different video when he was talking about they come for you, because when I say that monitoring stuff, that green, they had a green monitoring head came out the sky. Yep, they do. They come and they try to find you, and you got to fight. Like I have to fight spiritual warfare all the time. And that was from a child, but you can't run from it, because they're not going to stop. You know, Satan's kingdom is very persistent. But once you know your authority, yeah, that's that Medusa looking thing. That's the thing that in my video, when I talked about them snakes, how they attack the men, they come for the boys and the men because they got the seed. They come for them. That's the water kingdom. And when your family have an iniquity seed of witchcraft and sexual immorality, a lot of times your bloodline is covenant to the water kingdom. And they come for your children. They come for them. They do things. They try to mess with their sexual orientation and all of that. That's what they do. And we are thinking a natural, like, oh, they just doing this and they doing that. No, they we got to fight them. That's what we got. He equipped us. That's Ephesians 6:12. We talk about we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but, you know, principalities, powers, rulers of darkness, spiritual wickedness in high places. He tell us we got to have on our helmet of salvation, breastplate of righteousness, the sword, that's the word, gird our loins with truth, shod our feet with the gospel of peace, shield of faith. We got to fight and we got to pray. That's our weapon. You got to pray. Got to talk. Even if you pray with tears, even if you just be talking to him like we talking, that's how I be talking to God. That's a prayer. It counts. He said all kinds, you know, just talk to him. But we got to fight them, because they waged a war with humanity. And you see, they just made an announcement with the, when I think about Gemini, I'm going to tell you, because I see a lot of AI psychosis. Tell you what Gemini is. This stuff, AI is the demonic technology. When I get into the medicine, I'm going to get into AI, because that comes from the black goo, graphene, and all of that. Delta, the reason why they call the computers Delta wave, Delta is that gate opening when they're doing this for our mind soul, for our crown, the top chakra, for them to attach people to the second heaven. So these beings are more powerful than the demons we've been dealing with. Because he said they opened up CERN. CERN opened up the kingdoms. They got the key, and these things been coming out the pit. And so it's more like a Nephilim type of deal with the Gemini than a fallen angel. So the Nephilim, they disembodied spirits. They not making it. They the ones from the flood. They just in between, and they the ones that's doing all like a lot of this technology, because they need access to get to the humans. A fallen angel can shapeshift. So they can come on the scene, they can do some things. Satan, a fallen angel. A Nephilim need a body. A disembodied spirit or an imp, those are low levels. But you got some that's like was human at one point in time. Isis and them, or and Nana and them, the ones that they say reincarnate in these people, those are more like the Nephilim type. They need a body. So their parent was a fallen angel, the one in the Greek mythology, and then they kind of, was they born something else. But let me see if I can pull this up here. So this person, you can hear, and some of I'm only kind of showing this stuff because when we with a narcissist, it's different types of narcissists. Some can be born human, but you got your hybrids out here. They narcissists too. They might do like brief relationships, one night stands. We don't know. They do it. It's a lot. Coastal might have more hybrids, but you want to know how this stuff is kind of going on, because you got to know what you're dealing with.
If you go, it's like a Venus.
So the ones that are kind of programmed, they're programmed, but they're human or whatever, but they've been in a cult, or they've been, things happened in trauma and all of that, and they have a huge like promiscuous appetite. This is a little bit more extreme. Like she was kind of split in a IVF, or when that spark happened, and then they used her for some years before they put a living soul to her or put her to her womb to finish developing. So she had a DNA template that will allow another Nephilim strand to come in her, so she can become a mermaid or be able to give birth to Nephilim. So there are some women, Nephilim babies are like 3 months. There are some women that are used to procreate these Nephilims, like mermaids or snake women or whatever, they something else, and then they procreate humans too. So this is happening. That's why they want artificial wombs. I can show you how they work, but that'll be I can show you how we can see the stuff attached to the DNA seed. We got some videos where it's attached to it. Hold on, let me see again. Forgiving an ex-narc. So that's them prisons. So in order to get out of the prison, you have to see what could possibly be a false system belief that has been set up that prevents you from forgiving, or that can alter your definition of forgiving. So some of my systems was, I felt like, I did forgive, but then I was like doubting if I forgave, because I'm like, well, do forgiveness mean that I need to reach out? Don't do that. I almost lost my life. It's like we gotta understand what forgiveness is. So forgiveness, when you're dealing with somebody that is like this, the way that I had to forgive was to read Matthew 5:44, put their name in Matthew 5:44 in the prayer, and I just kept doing it until I start crying. Sometimes it can be 30 times, 100 times, but you just keep reciting it until the Holy Spirit moves, and then he provokes a supernatural forgiveness. And that's it. You pray for them, forgive those who love you. I forgive him. I forgive them that hurt me. I forget those. I bless those that curse me. Because ultimately, we're not doing it just for them. We're doing it so that we can get our soul part back from that kingdom. Because they'll keep our soul part trapped until we do that. And that's the only reason why we got to do it. We're not giving them a break. We're not even a judge for that. They already on their road to destruction. They are tethered to darkness. It don't get no worse than that. None of that. We think that it's the real core of them experiencing that. The demons are experiencing that. They're experiencing that lifestyle and stuff. They trapped in a prison. Should tell you how some of this go. Like, they don't even be knowing themselves. Other personalities be taking over. They like in a coma somewhere. Yeah, but I say to you, love. So you just put their name in there. So like, I love, such and such. I love Bill because you told me to love my enemies. Bless Bill because he cursed me. Do good to Bill even though he hates me, and I pray for him that you have mercy, and that's it. And you leave it there, and then you don't reach out, because he still says stay away from the wicked. If you reach out thinking like, okay, I'm gonna forgive you for everything, oh, that narc finna eat you up. They about to jack you up because they got communication. There's an open line. That's a demon you about to be talking to, and a demon with vengeance. That's about that. And when it got 7 stronger ones, that's gonna try to take you out. That person is still bound to the demon, to the kingdom of darkness. Okay, they working with some stuff that's beyond us.
Shell. I don't know if you know what I mean.
So she talking about what it took for her to have so much iniquity to be able to shapeshift. Because some of us, we seen the ass turn, or we seen like the reptile ass happen. This is usually how this works.
It's a very typical shell. And
so she was a baby, because I know it came in like at this point. She was a baby, and she talking about the initial ritual once she was actually born. They had a shell. So they was tying her to a nana. I talk about a nana a lot. That's who Jezebel was a priestess for. She was a priestess for a nana and felt like a nana incarnated into her. Cleopatra may have did the same thing, with the same one.
If you Google it, you'll find it. It's very typical, and they made. And got me by my feet, my ankles, and they put me into that Venus shell that was filled with water. And obviously, I wasn't able to breathe underwater by then, and so you start drowning, and you want to breathe, and at some point, I actually drowned. So I didn't. But then in the water came this in my nose, and I came back to life. And I mean, I was a baby. I don't know what kind of entity it was, what its name was. All I knew is that I was rescued and that I could breathe again. Some sort of bonding between me and that entity. And for me, this meant that I was accepted by the water kingdom. So they are training you in many areas. Like I was trained in the water kingdom, I was trained in the underworld, and I was trained in the sky, in the earth realm as well. And this was my initiation in the water kingdom. And as time passed by, a few months, maybe a year later, there was a similar ritual. And every time that this happened, I started to learn how to call on this entity to breathe in. When I was old enough to actually, when they start programming, like the programming age isn't the same as the age when they're getting you used to stuff. Like you have conditioning and you have the programming. And when I was old enough to really get into the programming, that's when they got me under the water. It wasn't a shelf anymore, or how do you say it? Like a shell. It wasn't a shell anymore. It was actually a tank of water that went really deep. And
so what they doing is when they fracture the human spirit, it's almost like a near-death experience. So a lot of us probably had similar things. I know, like stories on my grandma, like, oh, you almost choked. You choked when you were 2, or the ceiling came in. Like it was these experiences where it's like, okay, you had a near-death experience, but when you go through something like that, that's so traumatic, and you kind of fracture and you come back to yourself, something else come back with you. You're not just going out there and coming back and it's just you. And it happened in a very dark, traumatic way. So that's why that abuse and different things in childhood, like you got the conditioning, the fracturing, and and then you have the programming. So the programming are them wicked parents, the wicked friends, the different things that come in. Those are the programming that get your DNA conditioned to now try to be connected to a Satanist. So they want you a narcissist. That's why a lot of times you might see them be with another narcissist, and they can kind of maintain whatever they call whatever for a longer period, or they want somebody as grimy as them, because two people with power is stronger than one, even in the demonic kingdom. So that new supply that's just as grimy as them, or that will lie with them and everything, they can do more wicked power together. They can combine their power because they both probably had these similar backgrounds of sorcery and all this stuff, probably on drugs and everything else. And then together they can take out somebody that's trying to make it, that have a light in them. Their target is going to be that light, and they're going to always, out of all the X's, they're going to always have that fixation on that X that got that light in them. That's how that works.
Help me with the with their hands on my ankles, but they really wouldn't let me go, even when I would start to breathe under the water. And this time the entity didn't come.
Yeah.
And now what I had.
So just like she having an entity coming in the water, when you're in trauma and you get the thoughts and something just like, hey, we just gonna check out, we just gonna go to fantasy. Anytime this abuse is happening to you, just think of this, or go to the fantasy until it's over. That is how they program you to fantasy, into this imagination trap, to the imagination prison, to now they hijack your imaginations. So when you get with a narcissist, the future faking is what you live on. You live in your imaginations with them. None of that was what it seemed. But the Lululand that you can create, you have the ability, because the powers that you kind of develop through the trauma and the entities helping you, to see something different than the reality that makes it better when you're in pain. That is major. That's really the Lululand.
To do in my panic was like, okay, I can't, the entity isn't coming, so I have to become it. And that is when something really weird happened. And when I think it activated what was dormant in my DNA,
that's how you do. It's weak.
My nose started to be funny. Like it was a bit, I mean, I don't know how to describe it. It was a bit funny feeling.
Hold on, I want to answer. Yeah, I can repeat that for you. That I was saying that, like with the programming, when you're going through trauma as a child, just like how this water entity was coming to her and giving her essence and giving her life, the imagination entities come to us. And what they do is, when you're a child and say you're getting, yelled at or abused or violated or whatever, they get you to check out of yourself and get you to think of, a fantasy thought or a movie or something while something terrible is happening to you. And then it's conditioning you and programming you so that when pain is happening as you get older, your mind, your imagination that they have you on can recreate an entire different life, a reality than what's actually happening. What's actually happening is that this monster that's cheating and lying and doing all these things, getting you sick and everything, it can feel like love because your imagination attached something that was in the Lululand to train you to be able to go there when you're in pain. And the whole time that you're with the narcissist, outside of that initial couple dopamine hits and a couple little reliefs in the bedroom, outside of that, you're usually in pain. And so that keeps you dissociated from the reality of the situation, because the imagination things, the spirits, just like they came with the water spirit, they came and they conditioned you each time you were experiencing that trauma as a child and through childhood, anytime things were happening. And with witchcraft, when you had parents and grandparents and stuff doing that on you, they were conditioning you to dissociate from the reality. So anytime you got a lot of fantasy going on, daydreaming going on, and rumination and stuff, that's because a part of your imaginations is imprisoned by that fantasy realm. And there is a realm that's usually the second heaven, celestials. Remember that picture where the crown, what they call the crown energy opening, the delta. And notice TV, all of Hollywood operates with the delta. They get you in a delta brainwave state, and that is a state where they can take over the mind control. And entertainment means something is entering in the door, and it's attained in a mint. That's a spirit entering in, and it's being contained in your mind. I'll break that down in Latin. Dissociation is when you can like you got your core self, like how we talking now, but then when something traumatic is happening, you can kind of go off into a daydream or the Lululand or somewhere, and then you kind of are there but not there. The lights are on but no one's home, and then when you come back to yourself, you're like, oh wait a minute. Like somebody could be talking and you wasn't hearing them or nothing. You just spaced out. And then when you come back, it's like, oh, dang, I lost some time. You know, you lose bits of time and stuff. It's like you separate from your conscious being alert and aware. You go to a different space in your head. And that's common with trauma. So if somebody like violating you, a lot of times you dealing with the trauma, but then you can kind of separate, just to kind of like your body does that to protect you, especially if you were doing that a lot as a child. You might go to a different place and then you just come back when it's over and you're like, you know, that it sucked, but I don't think it was that bad, when it really was that bad. You just didn't feel it out because part of you just kind of went to a different place until it was over. That's the ones that's repeatedly violating, and they violate in harmful ways and hurtful ways. And then you just get it over with, and then you can kind of think of something else until they're finished. But that comes with a lot of abuse. That's why I said this is real similar to SRA. Oh yeah, psychiatry all of the systems were put in place by the families, and they were occultists to keep things covered up and deceived. Because if you knew you was dealing with a spiritual issue, you would address it with God. Their goal is to avoid everything about God, give you other reasons to think what is happening, and that way you never come to the truth, and you stay stuck, you stay bound. The only thing that will set you free is the truth. It's said in the Bible, you shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So you have to know the truth in order to be set free by the truth. That's why they want to suppress the truth. They don't even let you really talk about it as a provider. Like I've been fired so many times because, you know, sometimes people be working with stuff when I was first practicing. And I'm like, hey man, you got demons. I'm thinking I'm helping them because, you know, they in church and stuff. Nope, fired. But they did have demons. They even said it. I got demons. But then they're like, oh, I was just starting to, appreciate my diagnosis as chemical. But you only going to get free if you know what you're dealing with and you get that stuff out.
And I was suddenly able to start breathing under the water, and I felt how my whole body started to change. And my feet, my legs started to merge together in a way, and it started to become very slippery, and they couldn't hold me anymore. And that is when I escaped from them, and I got into the water, and that's the first time I actually shapeshifted into a mermaid. And when I look back to it now, I can see how I had been confronted like this entity by breathing itself, like breathing in my nose every time I drowned. It me, and that is how I activated actually to that part of that entity to come forward and enabling me to shapeshift into a mermaid. Does that make sense? So far?
Oh,
So I just want to briefly, because we're gonna go into that, like, even when we go into the medicine part, because I really want people to kind of see like how all this is linked together. So a lot of these teachings gonna start tapping into some of that, so we can really protect ourselves and understand, like, even when this is happening, the main strand that they're using is fear. Okay, like they got to have fear in order for any of this to work. A lot of the demonic technology, it comes from the fallen angels. It comes from the tree of knowledge. So there's another tree. We had the two trees. You got tree of life, tree of knowledge. They into that one. And the fallen angels, they know how this works. They've been doing this stuff since the days of old. All this has happened before. So everything that they giving, they know that in order to take a person over, you got to have these covenants contracts, and you got to be consuming them. And you can get their essence, their DNA. They have a essence, a DNA, and you can consume it. You can have intercourse with it, and you can have blood covenants with it. That's how they get down. Same with Christ. Christ was like, hey, that's why he got this blood mercy seat that covers that. That's why he said, eat my body, his word, eat that, drink my he said, eat my flesh, drink my blood. That's what he was talking about with the communion. Do this in remembrance of me. Except with Christ, he make it symbolic because he turns it into that in the spirit realm. You don't have to, do what the rituals in them do, because he is life. They don't have life, so they need you to do it with a life force. And that's really where we at as far as with the narcissist. When we've been consuming them, just like how she said she turned into that entity. When whatever you consume, you turn into. That's why they came up with that phrase, you are what you eat. When you dealing with demons and you're dealing with narcissistic demons and you're consuming that and you're being consumed by that, you're going to start turning into that. You're going to start turning into a product of that kingdom. And that's what most people have turned into. And you have to completely do the opposite of everything that your construct said it was. Like whatever your programming is, whether you were programmed by the movies, programmed by dysfunctional families, programmed by culture, programmed by YouTube or baddies or reality shows, and that's why it's called programming. Satan is very strategic on the law, on the legalist. He know he got to put it in plain sight for us, because that whole deception, he like, hey, I'm gonna deceive him, but I'm gonna tell him too, because he need that legality. Because he go to the courts of heaven like, hey, they knew I was doing this. I told them. I said I'm doing this. Like Kanye, I told him I was God. That's why they do it. But then if they tell you they something else and you forget that they told you they was the devil, then that's on you. That's how they feel. But God is merciful. He be like, nah, it ain't quite go down like that. So I'm gonna help them. So we gotta know how we got into these traps. We gotta know when we shattered, these are the things to look for. When we get into when they talk about the rituals, we just went over how that goes with the broken spirit. They do a trauma. You got that light, but the light then went into the particles and stuff. You fractured, you're broken. And then the entities come and they start feeding on that, and they start putting up kingdoms on your spirit. And then they make you drawn to that so they can get you in these contracts with them so they can live through you. They want your body. They want your parts, your womb and stuff. They hate you. They want to put you in a prison, and they want to live through you. It's like how they were saying the real Beyonce locked up somewhere, and who knows, that's one of the things that's floating. But those things can happen, and that's how it will happen. If somebody sell their soul or whatever, they might be like, all right, check them out, put them in a prison. They can watch themselves on a monitor, but an entity is going to be the one living through that body. When they be like, they be invoking these things, conjuring these things, when they go on a concert and stuff. If something is there, where did the other one go? They're not in a body together. Only one person can be operating that soul and body up at a time. They go to a place, the Lulu. They may or may not remember it. Some of them can go to places. I don't have memories of where I went. I have some of them. One was a dark pit with some flatworms. One was some water. There's some things you might have some memories, but a lot of times people don't. And they just be like, well, I wasn't gone. That's your narcissist. Your narcissist, you dealing with just a bunch of these characters. And if there is some of them in there, because not everybody was like completely taken over as far, I want to be careful when I say that. Not everybody is transhumanized or hybrid. Some people still got some humanity parts in there. They might not have went through this. They might have just been whoring around. But they don't check them in quite often. You might see a little piece of them maybe in the beginning if they want if the demons know that they need a human emotion to relate to you, they might let them briefly check in, but after that, they're going to check them out and they're going back to the sleep state or whatever they in, the torment, torture, wherever prison they in. You won't see that person again. You might hear it in a dream. If you hear them getting tortured or tormented in their nightmares, there might be a little bit of the real them, but you ain't going to really meet that person in day-to-day interactions. How do you get out the prison? Psalms 23:3. He restored my soul. So Yeshua, he's our shepherd. He's our deliverer. He died so that we can live. Everything about him and what he did is so we could live. Let me see here. I think it's Isaiah 61. When he read that, in the synagogue, he really laid it down like, hey, this is what this say. It prophesied of me. I'm here this. And, and that was it. And they got mad. And let me see if I can. How did I share this before? I'm sharing the screen and say stop sharing. Okay. I don't know if I was sharing another screen or not. But let me share this, the solution. Because we need that. We need to not just know about the problem. We got to know how out and fix it. So he talked about it here. If it'll share. Technology be tripping when I be telling the truth. They get mad every now and then. But we got victory over them. This here where it is, this is Isaiah 61. And he talked about why he had to come. He came and said, the spirit of the sovereign Lord, that's the spirit of Yahuwah. So the Ruach of Yahuwah is on me. This is what Jesus was saying. This was prophesied. Then he repeated it in the New Testament through the gospel. He said he was anointed by Yahuwah the Father. I'm gonna read the translation because all of it say Lord and stuff, but some of it is Elohim, some of it is Yahuwah, some of it is the Ruach is different things. But he said he was anointed by Yahuwah to proclaim the good news. This is good news for the poor. When you break down who the poor is, and I had broke them down, but I ain't gonna bring up all the slides. That's us. Those that's been broken, hurt, mental distress. That's the poor. Got good news for y'all. He said he sent me to bind up the brokenhearted. That word bind means to go and gather all of the pieces. And the broken heart is actually your spirit, your fracturing of your spirit, your mind, your soul, your conscience. All of those are listed under the brokenhearted. They just got hearted. But that means your way you're thinking. That means the mind. That means all of that. Your inner parts is your heart. And he came so that he can go and be able to bind all of those up, gather all of those parts in all of those different timelines, which they call the quantum. They're saying we got layers of timelines. So I'm going to use some of their terminology that they're putting out there so we know this is a real thing. But they said they're in the quantum. That means they're in these timelines that overlay. Based on people's free will choices, you got a lot of different outcomes that can happen. So they try to go and see what somebody's future might look like, and they try to change it. That's what the witches and them doing. And that's what they doing with that library. So he said he proclaiming freedom for the captives. That's everybody whose soul is in a prison. He came to put the freedom there. So when we invite him to those areas, like, God, I think that I got a soul part in a prison of lies because for some reason I keep believing lies. Can you please go get my soul part? Yep. He just needed you to ask him. So now that you know the truth, he can do it. He gonna go get it. I think I got some sickness going on. It seemed like a part of me might be attached to death and Sheol. I need that out. Show me how to get that out of me. That's the Holy Spirit is for. That's why he had to do this, because he the only one who can. Got to receive the Spirit of the living God. You got to be willing to let him help you. He will go and get your parts and start putting them back together. You'll start feeling better. You'll start having less sickness. Different things will go away. Your blood pressure, all that stuff will start being healed. Different doctor reports be healed. you'll start seeing a lot of supernatural things, which then will start increasing your faith because you're seeing the power working. He wants to do this. And he said he gonna release from darkness the prisoners. That's the Sheol people, the pig. He said he go and pick you up out the miry clay. He was like, if one of y'all get lost, he running. The shepherd is running for y'all. He's not playing when it comes to this people, these children, humanity. He loves us. And so he got this here. He will release us from the dark prisoners. Any narcissist, like anytime people were with them, we were in a dark prison. All of us. We were all in a dark prison. The mind prison is a worst prison you can ever be in, because that's one where the cage is invisible. You know, it's like you don't know if the door is open or shut. You don't know if you're going to run into an electrical zapper part of the door, or is this the way out? You know, that's how a mind prison does. It is the worst, because even though people are saying like, hey, this is the way out, you know that they are looking at a labyrinth. Like, this might seem like the way out, but I tried that and got shocked. You know, it's like, it's so many different webbings and things and interweavings that it's literally a trap. He the only one that can release you from that. That's a mind prison. That stuff will have you ziggity boo. It will shut your mind down to the point where you just kind of, you ain't even really trying to think no more. It just hurt to think. You have so many migraines attacking. Like, these enemies that took over the mind, they will send so many fiery darts to your head. It'll just hurt all the time in this area. Frontal rejection. Okay, that's total rejection. Here, witchcraft. If it's like a band, that's a witchcraft attack. If it's here hurting, usually that's a rejection attack. Rejection tries to sit here in the front seat of your mind. And witchcraft is like rebellion. So those two hands really take over that crown. And the crown, you got to have the crown of righteousness, the Christ crown. You got to have Jesus. He is the only one that can replace the wickedness crown, because that's a tree. That's a tree thing. You got two trees. Family tree, Christ tree. So you know, then he come here, he talk about he gonna proclaim the year of Yahuwah's favor. We in his favor. We can't see it because they enslaved us, but when he imprisoned them, when you read Colossians 2:14, he said he disarmed every principality and power, and he made a public spectacle of them. He stripped them of all their rights, and then all of our ordinances, all the handwritings against us, that is our Akashic library. He nailed it to the cross. He blotted out all the ordinances against us, and he nailed it to the cross. So when they are in there trying to program our Akashic library, we got to use that scripture. I'm going to put it in here. That's going to be your fighting scriptures. It's Colossians. This is good to say every morning, because they program people to the moon, to the kingdoms, the celestials, to Venus, to Saturn. They program people to Sheol. They doing stuff in the midnight hour, the witches and them. That's what they do. That's their job. They got to do it faithfully. So we you know, kind of stand on Colossians 2:13-15. You know, that really disarm them. We just put that in a prayer, like, hey, God, you died for this. You said that your blood is gonna blot out these accusations that they're using against me to send these attacks. So can you apply your blood? I'm gonna call on your blood to handle that. And you said they already disarmed, so I'm gonna trust that. I don't need to be fearful, because he disarmed fear. He took the keys from Satan. I ain't got nothing to worry about with that. He got them angels. He made a public spectacle out of Anana and them. I ain't got to yield to them. They can't do nothing unless I give them my life force and power and give them the keys, which we are keys now. Give them the keys to come and rule over me and enslave me. We just got to know who we are in him. And he did the vengeance. He already did the vengeance on them. He said they was judged. They was found guilty. That's why they in Antarctica. They talking about, oh, they said in Antarctica, they didn't And the walls ain't there to keep them out. The walls are there to keep us in. We're in prison. We should go to Antarctica. We should go to Mars. No, you should not. Obviously, they're liars. Nobody thought about that. They could possibly be lying because they're there for a reason. He locked them up. You know, he did the Ice Age, everything. He locked them up. They can't come and do that stuff. He said, nah, y'all not going to enslave humanity because this has happened. When they crucified, and they tell us even there, if they know what they was doing when they crucified the Son of the living God, if they knew how that was going to happen, they would never have crucified him. The princess in them, that's in the Bible. And they say that even in the movies, they was like, only one got none of y'all humans can do nothing with us. Only one got to us. And that was Christ. Because Satan, he only could destroy. He didn't know he was being pimped out. You know, he's a puppet. He can only do his function. His function was to steal, kill, destroy. So he did what he did, but that put into God's plan everything in motion with prophecy. God said it. He was like, who can fight against me? None of them. They all work for me. So we on a better side. And then he said he gonna comfort those who mourn. So we got to really know it. If you break down these words, when you look them up in the Strongs, it's even deeper. But though that's us that's sad and brokenhearted, he gonna comfort us. That's what he did. So this is how we get out of this. We start trusting what he said. We start believing what he said. He gonna comfort those who mourn. Then he said he gonna provide for those who grieve in Zion. So that's us. We're the new Zion. Like if you look at the word Zion and the Hebrew letter, that's actually a meaning. So that's like his people. So he gonna comfort us. I think it's like the feminine with the crown. So we're the bride of Christ. So that's like his bride. That's a Hebrew letter, the Hebrew letter 7. But he does that. So he actually has an inheritance for us because he said that he gonna provide for us. We just gotta trust it. We gotta say, God, we gotta hold him to his word. But you said this. When we in a court, like, you know, it's like talking to your parent. A lot of people feel like they gotta be like a super formal and stuff like that. When you got your family and say your family was, you know, super rich, like say y'all were like the millionaires, and you know your family, you grew up with them. You're going to be walking around the house with your shorts and t-shirt and stuff like, hey, what's up? You know, da-da-da. You're going to be talking to them like you get the orange juice. Oh, okay. There's somebody who don't know your family that see this big mansion and stuff. They're going to be like proper and uncomfortable. Like, oh, okay. You know, I'm going to sit on this couch and I don't want to stain anything. And may I please have a glass of orange juice? That's how we come at God. But we his family. We should be coming at him comfortable. Like, God, you know what? I'm really struggling right now and I really need you. Like, okay, help me with this. All right, God, I'm really thinking about making this phone call. I know it's like detrimental to my life. I don't even know why I think like this, but I need you to help me because I'm really thinking about making this phone call and I know it's going to cause this. He will help you. Something supernaturally will happen. Maybe your phone would die. And then by the time that passes over and that demon get chained up, you won't think about it. You know, he bestowed on them a crown of beauty. So he gonna give people a crown of beauty for their trauma. These are all things instead of the ashes. So instead of having that ash, that decay from that darkness being attached, he gonna give you his crown and you gonna glow. He gonna give you the oil of joy. And that's where they didn't perverted that word, but that's your life force. So he's gonna give you he's gonna anoint you. You're gonna have that Holy Spirit. You're gonna have joy inside. It comes from him. You gotta ask him, God, I ain't feeling joy. Can I please have this anointing of joy? Because I'm not feeling it, but I want to. Your words say it. So I'm gonna keep asking. Like he said, if you keep knocking, hey, you're gonna get some results. He was like, even an unrighteous judge will answer somebody that keep knocking at the door. How much more will he answer you if you knock? If you keep knocking, like I'm gonna keep knocking because I want to feel this joy. Thank you. I'm glad. I hope people really like. I really want everybody free. Like, you know, I've been having all these different things planned to talk about, but I'm like, God, you just go in your direction because he know what everybody need. And then because I want to be getting like scientific and stick to narcissism, but he'd be like, he take it somewhere else. I didn't know I was going to go into this. He talk about, and this is instead of mourning. So in order to get these things from him, it really take a crushed spirit. Like we had to feel agony to even get to that part of ourself that is our true self, the part that was untouched, that he stayed with in childhood. And then it say, he gonna give us a garment of praise instead of the spirit of despair. So when you're feeling sad, you got to find a way to start praising him. Sing a song, get some stuff going. That will, because it's in this law, because it is written, the demon that is harassing and tormenting with despair and sadness has to flee. The angels will take them away, because that's how this works. It's legality. So when you praising, because he said it, he's going to give us a garment of praise, and we won't be in despair. You'll start feeling it lift. At first, it'll feel forced, but then you'll start feeling it to be more natural. Then you will really feel his presence, start taking that away. And then when he take it away, it start really going away for good. And then we'll be called the oaks of righteousness. Now that is translated into like this tabernacle tree. I don't know what I did there. It's translated into this tree, and that's like tree of life. That was a deep translation there, because they took the tree of life in Enoch, they took it up to the heavens. We got access to that in our spirit man. The flesh is gonna die, that's in the earth, but our spirit gonna live. And we have access to what they had access to with that tree of life, and it has all these benefits, and we can tap into that, and that can feed our soul and our body here on earth. That's how when you get the healing, because you're going into the tree of life from the spirit realm, and you eating of that, because it tells us here, the translation of that is a tabernacle tree, and it's mentioned in Enoch, and I got it on one of these slides, but things get lost in translation. But when he talk about us being these kind of trees, that is that tree. That's why he said he is the tree of life. When we get him, our spirit man, we got a storehouse of blessings. We got to start asking him for it. Like I do it all the time. But like, God, I need, I was real sick. Man, I had like pneumonia, all this craziness. I was like, I really need healing from the oil from my storehouse in my inheritance. I need to tap into my inheritance, and I need that oil to come, that healing one, get the healing jar, and I need that to heal my body, because my body is sick, and I can't deal with the doctors and them. People ain't making it out of there. So I was like, I need my lungs to be healed in Jesus' name. Like, I need this healing. I need you to keep pouring this healing on me. I need this to come out. I need everything to come out. So I need the healing. I know our bodies are going to go through something, but I know that my spirit has the ability to heal it. So I'm reaching into that, and he did it. We got to be patient with it, but he did that thing. I ain't sick. I was sick a couple weeks ago. I ain't sick now. And he will heal you. And his promise right here. And then he's talk about for the display of splendor. And then he will rebuild the ruins, the things that was, everything you lost. He gonna rebuild that. He gonna restore the places that was devastated. He gonna do all of that. We gotta understand the promises. Instead of shame, we gonna receive a double portion. He gonna hook us up. So as long as we know like this is gonna happen, good night, everybody. I'm sorry. I'm about to wrap this up though. But as long as he know this is gonna happen, he got us. We just gotta believe that he got us. So next time I'm gonna try to get into like some of the other things that the narcissists do that's in the medicine, like the comparisons. So I'm gonna try to have those comparisons just side by side, and then see how this stuff is exactly like the iniquity things that the narcissist was doing to us. So they can do, the black goo can get in you through rituals and through the medicine. So I'm gonna show that, and I'm gonna show what they're using, so we can have wisdom when we dealing with them. But the narcissists we had to get out of that. It was taking our life. It's like some things we can't see, but they were taking our life. So I hope this helped. It was long, but sometimes when you're talking about this kind of stuff, it's a lot because we got to know how to heal, but we are very complicated beings. And we got to know that when we're healing with the soul and the spirit, not just the physical, that's the only way that we will completely get them out of our system. You won't even think about the narcissist. You'll think about it as a way of a testimony, but it won't even be nothing that'll trigger an emotion. And that's the healing that we want. We want to be whole because we don't ever want to be in a situation like this again. We don't need another narc. We don't need none of that. We don't need the job narcs. We don't need systematic failures. We don't need finances to be going an array. We need our wholeness. And that's what we're going to get. So I will see you guys next week, next Tuesday. And hope this helped. Bye, everyone.